This is a miracle. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 376 The Purpose of Dusk. This was the first time Excelia had heard her brother speak so seriously. Why, please, the Far North Emperor didn't explain, but his words widened Excelia's eyes in shock. The Far North Queen had never seen her brother so serious, and this only infuriated her even more. Give me reason, she's the great philosopher, huh? Excelia was stunned for a moment, then a look of disdain filled her face. Her? That kind of thing, she's the great philosopher? What a joke. What is the great philosopher? It's the being that the Titans, the origin of the world of miracles, seek. The great philosopher is not a human, nor a living being, but rather a mysterious will. Different civilizations have different definitions of the great philosopher, but they all share a common essence, the ultimate truth of the universe. As for the great philosopher's origin and meaning, since no one has ever found him, the answer is difficult to determine. Or perhaps the great philosopher itself is the answer. Anyone with questions, needs, or difficulties, if they can find the great philosopher, all problems can be easily solved. Brother, is it because of her? Excelia thought of the reason the Far North Emperor had stopped her, that woman. He must have wanted to get her back. I'm sorry, the Far North Emperor apologized, but he didn't know how else to explain to Excelia. The woman the Far North Empress was referring to was none other than the Far North Emperor's wife. Logically, Excelia and her brother were both miracle bearers, having bestowed their miracles upon each other. No one could be closer than they were. But the problem was, their affection was only that of brother and sister, not love between men and women. Therefore, the Far North Emperor had always been concerned about his sister's well-being. They would remain single and depend on each other. He couldn't let his brother marry and have children while his sister remained alone. This was the Far North Emperor's insistence, the sole reason he endured 1,000 years of solitude. Why her again? Excelia didn't like that woman, but her brother was captivated by her. It happened before, and now it happens again. How many more times are we going to have to do this? At this moment, Excelia, like a girl losing her composure, snapped at her father and brother. She's become your weakness. Without her, you would be so much more remarkable. My brother is powerful, wise, far-sighted, and possesses an enviable charisma. Excelia was heartbroken. If you were by my side then, and I'd admit Saros, why would I have to act so quickly? With you, why would I fear him in the slightest? The Far North Queen's personality changed dramatically, a major reason being her brother's abandonment. He had a wife, a family, and a thriving family. But what about Excelia? She was an outcast, like a third wheel, an eyesore and a numbness wherever she stood. Excelia chose to leave, numbing herself with battle and destruction. But what could she do? What else could she do but wish them well? You're right, the Far North Emperor closed his eyes in thought, nodding his head firmly. But I have no regrets. The Far North Emperor had fallen in love not with a powerful figure or a miracle king, but with an ordinary mortal. And as a woman, besides being virtuous, she possessed no talent. If the Far North Empress scored 10,000 points, his wife wouldn't even get 80. Even so, love lacks reason. The Emperor was moved by his wife's gentleness and innocence. In his eyes, even her clumsiness held an infinite allure. Despite his high position, wielding immense power and authority, the Emperor remained faithful to only one woman. Even now, with his wife deceased, the Emperor sought a way to bring her back to his side. Even if the price is a bargain with a woman like that, yes. Fortunately, Excelia respected her brother to the utmost, otherwise, at that single word, she would have called him a vixen. That woman had taken her brother from her, reduced a man who could have been at the top of the world to a weakling, and turned the Far North Empire into a playground for a bunch of little ones. Even now, in death, she wouldn't let him go. Infuriating, even more hateful. I truly regret this now, Excelia said. I regret not having killed her myself. The Empress's death was deeply suspicious. The Far North Emperor suspected many, but not his own sister. Even in his utter fury, Excelia would not have attacked her. This was also the reason why the Far North Empress ran away from home and, even now, refused to return to the Far North Empire, instead residing in a multidimensional space. If she didn't want to stay, then she simply left. If she could be resurrected, would you attack her? These words were sharper than a knife. Igriselia glared at her brother fiercely. The answer was obvious, she wouldn't. It was precisely because she wouldn't that the Far North Empress felt so suffocated and tormented. She had never dared to do anything, but it was that woman who made her realize the bitterness of impotence. That was the great emperor of the Far North, wasn't he? Meanwhile, Bai Luo said to his uncle, he looks like a good guy. He first suppressed Igriselia, then took the initiative to bow to me. And it was all from the heart, and then, what do you think? Of course it's dangerous. The more charismatic the great emperor of the Far North was, the more powerful and dangerous Bai Luo felt he was. I prefer a brainless fool who comes up and slaps me in the face to a strong man like that. Unfortunately, there probably wouldn't be such a fool among the miracle kings. No one who can become a king is a simple character. You're overthinking it, the uncle shook his head and said, not the latter part, but the former part. You're overthinking it, the former part, Bai Luo frowned. Uncle, you mean, he's not a strong man? How can someone trapped in love be considered a strong man? Suddenly, the queen joined their conversation about miracles. Am I right, father? He almost forgot there was another one. Queen. Bai Luo quickly withdrew from his perception, then, in the real world, grabbed the queen's hand. Who are you, and why are you trying to embarrass my Fiaya? Though she claimed to want to discipline her, the queen was a formidable figure, capable of single-handedly challenging the Far North Empress without losing. Senior sister, at most at the Fourth Awakening, could never withstand the pressure from Igriselia. But what about the queen? She acted nonchalantly, strolling leisurely, not even taking the dignified Far North Empress seriously. Such strength was truly beyond Bai Luo's comprehension. Let me tell you a little secret. The queen glanced at the arm Bai Luo grasped, a hint of fear in her eyes, but quickly regained her previous composure. I did attract the dusk, but it doesn't belong to me. Also, I gave you the dusk not to make you an enemy of the entire world, Sophia said, but because it can kill me. Chapter 377. It's only natural. What do you mean by that? Bai Luo couldn't grasp the queen's logic. What did she mean by because it can kill me? Literally, the queen and her senior sister had different personalities. The senior sister was usually quiet and reserved with words, but the queen was very talkative. I attracted dusk precisely so you could kill me. Why? Is there something wrong with that? The queen, while giving Bai Luo a different vibe than the senior sister, was still very close. She didn't hide anything, simply saying, we're husband and wife. If one day your wife suddenly becomes wealthy and frequently goes out, and you have no way to control her, would you be able to rest assured? Bai Luo immediately exclaimed, oh my god, he truly couldn't understand who the queen was. Enemy? Or one of us? If she was an enemy, then her tactics were incredibly clever. It was hard to tell the truth from the false. Is this also a calculation? Bai Luo, you put yourself in danger, just to gain my trust. Bai Luo didn't have any reassurance nonsense. He was deeply wary of the queen, and wouldn't be easily shaken, nor would he allow her to take advantage. After all, if the queen really did win Bai Luo's favor, what would happen to his senior sister? Would Bai Luo have to make the senior sister's personality, which he was familiar with, disappear forever? How different would that be from killing his own wife? It's not a calculation, the queen. I prefer to call this love, true love, because I love you, my husband. Bai Luo was silent for a long time, finally looking at his uncle. Old man, can you help me stabilize the situation? Leave it to me. The kings were shocked by the confrontation between Igriselia and the queen, and Bai Luo was in the center of the storm. He asked his uncle to comfort them while he took the queen to the world of Avalon for a proper communication. His uncle had no choice but to take his senior sister to the world of Avalon. After all, his senior sister was his daughter, so the old man naturally sided with Bai Luo. What just happened? Are we really going to go to war? Is the miracle world going to have another war? No, it's been peaceful for so many years. The miracle kings are a mix of people, those who negotiate, those who are righteous, those who are evil, and a whole host of chaotic and idiotic individuals. But no matter which side they are on, none of them want a truly devastating war. After all, no one wants to die. Being a good lord of miracles is comfortable, so why destroy yourself and your body for a little power and some so-called competition? Don't worry, there won't be a war. It's over. Uncle's connections are still as powerful as ever. At least 1/3 of the kings breathed a sigh of relief at his assurance. Clearly, they trust Uncle. Uncle, my words are trustworthy. Kings, oh. Can Fiaya come out? Elsewhere, Bai Luo brought a queen to the world of Avalon. This was the bedroom of Bai Luo and his senior sister, where they usually rested. Upon arriving, the queen took a calm look around. She knew the place and guessed Bai Luo's purpose for bringing her there. The queen felt a little uneasy, but she didn't show it. "That's really sad," she said, her expression almost tearful. "You like her more than me. You don't want to kill her, but do you want to kill me?" This was actually quite true. The queen and Bai Luo had nothing to do with each other. His senior sister was his wife. So if reality didn't forbid it, and if he really had two personalities, Bai Luo would have killed the queen in a heartbeat. How could that be? I just wanted to hear her thoughts. "Are you scared?" His provocation, however, had no effect on the queen. She smiled once more, a faint expression that Bai Luo thought was truly fake. But the queen was clearly joking, not seriously trying to trick him. "Okay, then let her tell you." Almost as soon as the words fell, the queen's expression, which had been soft and gentle, hardened. Seeing this, Bai Luo frowned slightly. "No, you're not Inya. Goodness, this woman was playing his senior sister." "It's me," the senior sister said. "It's really me. Do you think I'm lying?" Bai Luo wasn't just saying, "I've seen it all." He genuinely felt that the senior sister before him was the queen. "I don't know why, but I just feel it. You're not Inya. So stop doing this. Send her back immediately, or I'll be rude." "How do you want to prove it?" "Use this." Bai Luo quickly raised his hand and struck the senior sister from behind. "You?" The queen instinctively dodged Bai Luo's attack, keeping a meter or two away. Although she hid it well, the fear and terror in her eyes were unmistakable. After so many passionate encounters with the senior sister, Bai Luo knew her sensitivities and weaknesses. If it were a Inya, she wouldn't shy away. If it were the real senior sister, facing Bai Luo's sudden attack, she would be afraid and terrified, but she wouldn't dodge. On the contrary, she would have been eager for Bai Luo to punish her harshly. This wasn't a masochistic tendency on the part of the senior sister, but rather the queen's personality that made her miserable. If he could exploit his weakness to suppress the queen's arrogance and allow her to maintain her composure, senior sister wouldn't shy away. She would actually encourage Bai Luo to hide her harder. "Do you know why I brought you here?" Bai Luo lifted his sleeves, and at this action, the queen's expression suddenly changed. You shouldn't mess around. Let's talk it out." The queen was powerful, but she knew her situation. Great philosophers are very special beings. They shouldn't exist in themselves. To become real and meaningful, they must find a concrete medium. Simply put, perfect and eternal things don't exist. For a great philosopher to exist, there must be a little imperfection. The same is true for the queen. Bai Luo is her flaw. "Don't worry, I may hit women, but I will never hit my wife." Bai Luo despises domestic violence. But just as he finished speaking, Bai Luo revealed a strange smile. "But there is one thing I will do, and no one can blame me. Not long ago, I met an idiot woman. Although she was an idiot, what she said made a lot of sense." Bai Luo was talking about Yajin, the mentally retarded goddess. But Bai Luo had to admit that he trusted her very much and was almost certain that everything she said was true, not a single lie. "Now I give you two choices." Bai Luo ripped off his shirt. "Either let my failure come back, or," Bai Luo pointed to the luxurious and comfortable bed behind the queen, "I will let you know what is right and proper." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 378 Who's Not Afraid? "You?" The queen's lips twitched slightly, unsure how to evaluate Bai Luo's so-called methods. He didn't really think he could seduce her, did he? That was ridiculous. Could it be that Yajin was mistaken? Bai Luo saw that the queen didn't seem afraid. No, maybe she's just pretending. This woman is such a great actress. He didn't know if it was genetic, but Inya was a great actress. Her acting skills were perfect for a movie queen. Senior sister never acted, not because she couldn't, but because she didn't like it. But after becoming queen, her acting skills were no longer hidden, and she almost fooled even Bai Luo. Whether you're truly fearless or just pretending, Bai Luo quickly stripped off his clothes and strode forward. "Anyway, I'm not the one who's suffering." These words made the queen grit her teeth in anger. "Alice, I don't know who taught you that," she sighed helplessly, but this time, I admit you're stronger, okay, the queen admitted it. She was indeed afraid of Bai Luo's natural right, there was no way around it. Bai Luo was her nemesis. If the queen were a peerless martial art, Bai Luo would be her weak spot. Break through that weak spot, and even the queen, no matter how invincible she might be, would be completely defeated by Bai Luo. But the queen didn't care. Submitting to Bai Luo, being pinned beneath him, she felt no humiliation. That guy, suddenly, the queen's expression changed, and she gritted her teeth and exclaimed, "Damn it!" Bai Luo breathed a sigh of relief at the return of his senior sister. While Bai Luo lacked the terrifying intuition of the Far North Empress, he possessed a keen sense of both. He knew exactly when senior sister was senior sister and when queen was queen. However, this only happened after Bai Luo learned of the queen's existence. Before that, even Bai Luo couldn't tell when the queen had appeared. "Fiya, are you okay?" "I'm fine," the senior sister held her forehead. She hadn't expected the Far North Empress's appearance to draw the queen out. "What happened just now? Why did the queen? She was protecting you." "What?" The senior sister didn't want to admit it, but there was no way around it. The queen was still her, the queen, just with a different personality. Whether it was senior sister or the queen, they both considered Bai Luo their everything. But senior sister truly disliked the feeling of being the queen. It felt all-powerful, as if Bai Luo was completely ignored, even treating him like a naive younger brother. Yes, a younger brother, the kind that was still naive. So I'm a younger brother everywhere, so arrogant. Who was crying and begging for mercy on the bed? A sister's dignity was completely lost. "This time, it's all up to you, Xiao Luo," senior sister misjudged her, realizing that the queen wasn't another personality, but that her state was incredibly beautiful and addictive. Simply put, senior sister could become the queen at any time, but whether she was willing to return to senior sister status after becoming queen depended on the queen's wishes. "Xiao Luo, senior sister, tell me, is the queen better than me?" Bai Luo didn't know how to respond to senior sister's question. There weren't two personalities, two souls, or two consciousnesses, but only one. Senior sister's transformation into the queen wasn't a sudden loss of consciousness, with another taking over. If she had to describe it, senior sister felt the word opening up would be more appropriate. "Strength, wisdom, determination," senior sister said, looking at her hands, as if she's become omnipotent. The closer she got to the queen, the harder it was for senior sister to maintain her composure. Was she despicable? Indeed, the queen was evil and wicked. But her love for Bai Luo was genuine, and even if senior sister became queen, she wouldn't stand against him. But there's also good news. Suddenly, senior sister smiled, looking at Bai Luo. "She's changing me, and I'm changing her too." If it were the Queen of Avalon in his memory, she wouldn't be fooled by Bai Luo's words. Even if it was about something under the bed, she would have Bai Luo completely under her thumb. But because of senior sister's obedience and docility towards Bai Luo, the queen went from being a strong S to being dragged down by senior sister to a timid woman in front of Bai Luo. Can we please skip this topic? While conquering a woman is a very fulfilling thing for a man, Bai Luo still felt a little ashamed. "Is there anything wrong with this, Fiya? You've really changed." If it were the old senior sister, she wouldn't have discussed such shameful matters so casually, but now, she truly had no scruples. Tisk, senior sister felt strangely annoyed. It wasn't directed at Bai Luo, but rather at the queen, who had truly transformed her in an unpredictable way. "Then let's start by disciplining her." "What?" Before Bai Luo could make a decision, senior sister dragged Bai Luo towards the bed. "Don't worry about me. The tougher the better." Her words were beautiful, but her performance was as poor as ever. Looking at senior sister, unable to move, helplessly sprawled, Bai Luo felt a mixture of laughter and tears. "I didn't even use 1% of my strength, Fiya, the Lord of Miracles, suppression of miracle creatures, the implicit blockade of the Atón bloodline, and senior sister's inherently submissive nature combined to make her simply no match for Bai Luo." "Get some rest." Bai Luo didn't leave, but stayed with senior sister. Uncle was taking care of the outside affairs, and Bai Luo had complete confidence in his abilities. "I have uncle, who could possibly stand up to me. Don't worry, everything will be fine once sister arrives." Yes, the rift between senior sister and Ying Mulian had vanished because of the queen. Senior sister now trusted Ying Mulian deeply, even considering her a new hope after her own fall. A large reason senior sister became queen was due to her lack of strength. Senior sister told Bai Luo that, provoked by the Far North Queen, She realized she was no match for her and unleashed the queen's power, which led to her profound impact. Fortunately, this influence was reversible. As senior sister had said, she could also influence the queen. So, theoretically, if Bai Luo could capture the queen and discipline her harshly in her current state, perhaps he could actually force the queen back to her senior sister's form. However, such an event would likely be extremely detrimental to the queen. It's a shame we can't catch her. The queen was well aware of her own weaknesses, and therefore would never confront Bai Luo head-on. Senior sister was the queen, and she knew that if faced with such a situation, she would definitely flee. Can you recover now? Bai Luo asked. Fiya, because of discipline, senior sister had allowed Bai Luo to suppress his recovery ability, using pain and weakness to make him deeply aware of Bai Luo's power and absoluteness. Wait a little longer. Bai Luo was truly speechless. Other families would have their husbands demand it, but in their case, senior sister directly disciplined herself. It was truly extraordinary. Chapter 379 Kings of the Eastern Empire. So many people are here. On the third day of the King's Council, the kings took their seats in the vast circular conference room, one by one, according to the seats assigned by the electors. Ying Mu'ain had arrived this morning, but due to her status as the Eastern Queen, she couldn't sit with Bai Luo. Even when they met, they only exchanged greetings through the miracle contract as they passed by. So many people are here this time. The queen wore elegant and majestic oriental clothing, and as she moved, her golden hairpins emanated an indescribable aura. It was the manifestation of the power of miracles, the ultimate embodiment of splendor, nobility, and sublimity. Quite a few guys from the south are here too, holding an origami fan. The man wore his hair in a classic samurai style, a top knot. He was a fellow disciple of Lu Wei Long Jiu Xiang and Ritsu Zhu Sham Xianzhai. Regent, 2nd Feng Taiko. This is truly rare. The South wouldn't have sent so many people before, said the white-haired old man, none other than Lu Wang, who had joined the trading house alongside the Empress. Is it really because of that strange celestial phenomenon, Senior? Don't you know what it is? Second Toyotica played with his folding fan, refusing to believe Lu Wang didn't know. I've never seen it. Lu Wang was older, but not so long-lived as to take advantage of his age. The Eastern Empire's true senior figure was Feng Zai, the legendary figure even Ying Mu'ain had to consult. Where's Brother Feng? You should know him, right? Swish. Ying Mu'ain glanced at the seated Feng Zai, his eyes speaking volumes. The Eastern Empress was now deeply wary of Feng Zai, fearing he might resort to some means to deal with Bai Luo. The prophet's abilities were truly unpredictable, and Ying Mu'ain had to be cautious. You'll find out in a moment. Feng Zai ignored Ying Mulian's warning. He had already witnessed countless destinies and futures. If you really counted, he'd been killed by Ying Mulian millions of times. Therefore, Feng Zai was absolutely certain that if he threatened Bai Luo, the Eastern Empress would kill him without mercy. Clatter, clatter, ha! The big sister is so majestic. The man in the white tall hat gently waved a stick covered in white paper. While everyone else was sitting, he sat cross-legged at the table, grinning. Did Bass Feng offend the big sister? You're going to get a hard time. Sit down, Feng Du boy. The middle-aged man spoke, wearing a thin black windbreaker that exposed his chest, revealing his impressively muscular physique. Brother Teichu is angry. Ancestor Teichu, one of the most powerful of the Eastern Empire's 1 emperor and 20 kings. Of those present, Feng Zai had the most seniority, having survived since the time of Emperor Sui, a history that stretched back tens of thousands of years, a true veteran. Then came the Eastern Empress and Lu Wang, miracle lords who emerged at the end of the Emperor Sui era and were both powerful miracle lords with a history exceeding 10,000 years. However, the Eastern Empress was of a higher rank, while Lu Wang was of the middle rank, a level below. Then came Zhu Teichu, a miracle lord excavated approximately 4,000 years ago after the Eastern Empress returned to the land of miracles. The Queen of Heaven and Zhu Teichu were contemporaries, both boasting 4,000 years of seniority. Feng Du was younger, at just over 1,000 years old. So he addressed Zhu Teichu as big brother and the Eastern Empress as big sister. However, in the land of miracles, a seniority exceeding 1,000 years essentially qualifies as a potential vassal king. Even the younger Feng Du was a regional hegemon. If he were placed in the 3 kingdoms of the New World, namely, Guotian, Zhengai, and Tiang, his power would be enough to lead a separate nation, a true king-level warrior. This is the gap between an empire and a kingdom. It's true to say it's better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix, but the gap is still there. In an empire, especially one with a friendly atmosphere and generous mentors, miracles shouldn't rise too fast. By comparison, Second Toyo Taiko had been a miracle master for less than 100 years. In the Eastern Empire, he would be at the bottom of the heap in terms of both power and status. Yet even such a shogun had already achieved a miracle that reached the Third Awakening, standing on par with the three Azure Lords. The empire is called an empire because of the vast disparity. As for the standard of miracles, the shogun was a lower-level miracle master. Lu Wang, the Queen of Heaven, and Feng Du were three mid-level miracles. Feng Zai's status was unclear and could not be determined at this time. Zhu Teichu, like Yingmu Ayan, was also the owner of a higher-level miracle, but his miracle was unique, not the kind that could reach the Fifth Awakening solely through sheer talent. For 4,000 years, Zhu Teichu had only reached the peak of the Fourth Awakening, and he could never cross the threshold to the Fifth Awakening. Bai Luo's uncle had once told him about this man, describing him as follows: although Zhu Teichu's miracles are powerful, they are incompatible with his nature. In other words, Zhu Teichu loathed his own miracles, preventing him from fully integrating with them, a requirement of the five senses. Furthermore, Zhu Teichu and Ying Wuang had a close relationship. This was unsurprising. Given the Eastern Empress's charisma, coupled with her life-saving grace and her kindness, Ying Wuang had contributed at least 60% to Zhu Teichu's current success. Grateful, Zhu Teichu deeply respected the Eastern Empress and was a staunch royalist remaining within the Eastern Empire. To rally sufficient forces, Ying Wuang had already consulted with Zhu Teichu. This man's personality was very similar to King Aole's. He didn't care if Ying Wuang offered the Eastern Empire as a dowry to Bai Luo. His only condition was that Bai Luo fight him. If Bai Luo could defeat him in a one-on-one duel, he would immediately make him emperor. You guys came so quickly, not even waiting for me. Oh, you're here. Have you finished feeding the monkeys? Long time no see, Awakener. The visitor was a woman, petite and inconspicuous. She arrived belatedly, then greeted everyone present with a smile. Awakener, a holder of a higher-level miracle of the same generation as Yingmu Ayan. You're so slow. I thought you'd come after the meeting, Zhu Teichu immediately retorted to the girl, but the latter didn't get angry. Instead, she responded gently, Did Xia Alonglong miss me? I missed you so much, Xia Alonglong. Zhu Teichu folded his hands and closed his eyes, ignoring her. There was no way around it. Despite her petite appearance, she was incredibly powerful. Awakener was the best-tempered miracle master in the Eastern Empire. Perhaps even the most agreeable and gentle person in the world, but Zhu Teichu knew how formidable she was. She was very strong. Extremely, very strong. Xiaomi, come and sit next to me, Yingmu Ayan waved to the girl, and the Awakener took a few quick steps. Coming. The Eastern Empire has three upper-level miracle lords, the Eastern Empress Ying Wuang, the Awakener, and Zhu Teichu, who has little experience but is known as the two newcomers together with a female sword emperor. Chapter 380, Kings of the South. We were just talking about those guys from the south, weren't we? Xia Omian brought the conversation back to the topic. She was actually quite interested in the situation in the southern lands. The Queen and Yingmu Ayan were at odds, but she wasn't foolish enough to show it directly. Those southern guys have been secluded for years, not letting anyone in, and doing things in secret. They suddenly sent someone over here this time. I wonder what they're up to. At least there had been a honeymoon period. If it weren't for Ying Bei's Hao, the Queen would have been completely devoted to Ying Luoyang. But it's a shame that the woman she loves has a man. So disheartening. Do you still care about them? Zhu Teichu folded his arms and propped his legs up on the table. This isn't the first civil war. Whatever they dare to do, just send them back. Zhu Teichu disliked the miracle lords of the southern continent for the simple reason, they were too despicable. Yes, despicable. This wasn't to say that the miracle lords of the south were incompetent. On the contrary, they were formidable, with some even rivaling the emperor-level miracle lords of the higher tiers. However, that wasn't the problem, it was the southern king's attitude towards dimensional beings. In the eyes of Zhu Teichu, as well as those of the Eastern Empire, the Sacred Realm, the Far North, the ancient Golden Kingdom, and other nations, dimensional creatures were deeply offensive. How could they give status to maggots that feed on corpses? What's wrong with their brains? Zhu Teichu spoke so bluntly, and the Eastern Empire's kings were already accustomed to it. Even the Chancellor was not surprised. Everyone has their own preferences. No need to criticize. Qi Zhutecha was not from the land of miracles. He was born in a plane destroyed by dimensional creatures, and he had a deep aversion to the creatures that grew by gnawing on the corpses of the children of miracles. If there's a war, Brother Techa will definitely be the first to charge. Right, Feng Du was dressed in white, but it looked like the clothes of a dead person. This was Bai Wu Chang's attire. Although he was the Lord of Miracles, ruling the Eastern Empire's world of death and controlling the reincarnation of all beings, Feng Du liked to play minor roles. As he said, this made him more approachable. Bai Wu Chang, in many myths of other planes, was not a powerful figure, easily defeated. Feng Du had actually been longing for someone to attack him with such an intention. That would have been quite interesting. There won't be a war. The Southerners aren't that stupid. Ying Mu'ayan shook her head. Although she had lost her absolute prestige, the confidence and courage brought by her restored strength once again reassured the kings of the Eastern Empire. It's clear how many lords of miracles there are in this world. The prophets possessed this ability, allowing them to directly calculate the number of lords of miracles, such as 173, which was the total number of all miracles in the current world. Of course, this wasn't without flaws. The only problem was that they couldn't distinguish between lords of miracles and miracle creatures. Indeed, in the prophets' calculations, miracle creatures were also counted as lords of miracles. 21 in the Eastern Empire, 20 in the far north, 25 in the Sacred Realm, and 20 in the Golden Realm. That leaves 86, add to that the 30 in the Three Kingdoms. The dozen or so in the two principalities and the four seas, and the Bai Luo clan, and there were nearly 140 lords of miracles. No matter how you counted it, the southern continent had at most 30 kings. With such strength, even the Eastern Empress would have to admire their courage in daring to go to war with the 140 miracle lords of the northern and new worlds. South, what's going on? Bai Luo sat in the seat assigned to Atón by the Holy Spirit, flanked by his uncle and senior sister. They were also discussing the Southern Miracle Alliance. As you know, the miracle world originally had only one continent, his uncle said. There are 3 existing continents. The northern land was divided between the Eastern Empire and the ancient Golden Kingdom. The new continent was created later, and the southern continent was shattered. What remains is the silent western continent and the missing eastern continent. Approximately 200,000 years ago, the miracle lords erupted in an unimaginable war. As a percentage, at least 95% of the miracle lords perished in that civil war, which is the fundamental reason for the current prosperity of dimensional creatures. So many people died, and for what? Would the miracle kings really go to war if there were no benefit? Bai Luo was skeptical. Hearing his words, Bai Luo asked, so, the Lost Realm is a term that emerged at that time. The 4 continents of the miracle world were originally one, but were shattered by the war. The new world didn't actually exist, it was actually a product of war. Not really, Fiya, do you know? Knowing how to deal with the queen and seeing his senior sister regain her usual aloof personality, Bai Luo felt relieved. Is it the queen? His senior sister inherited the queen's wisdom, though still incomplete, but more knowledgeable than most miracle lords. Yes, he said, the miracle war 200,000 years ago was the result of the manipulation of the trading house. Is that organization really that old? They existed 200,000 years ago. Just how much had they done? So what is the purpose of the trading house? To stir up conflict among the kings and seek to control the entire world? I don't know, senior sister shook her head. The queen had blocked some of her knowledge, and this was clearly part of the blocked information. I only know that the war wasn't caused by internal conflict, but by external forces. Senior sister wasn't entirely clear on the details. Simply put, 200,000 years ago, the kings worked together to build a happy and harmonious homeland. But the trading house, deeply dissatisfied, summoned a terrifying monster from nowhere, resembling a miracle dragon. To combat it, the miracle kings united and successfully repelled it. However, harmony was shattered, and the kings could never return to their former state. Over time, petty frictions culminated in war. Today I kill one of your people, tomorrow you retaliate, senior sister said. The miracle world was thrown into chaos, and ultimately, that tragedy. In that era, nearly every king harbored hatred for each other, and the war would not end until the other was completely annihilated. The continent of Atón was shattered, leaving the northern continent isolated. The eastern portion drifted into the endless fog, lost in an unknown land. Senior sister, the western continent remained silent, and the southern continent, after shattering, drifted even further, becoming the current group of planes floating above the sea of stars. Bai Luo and his companions used the voice of miracles, which only he and his own people could hear, including Ying Luoyang. They have been isolated for years, with no communication with the outside world, the Eastern Empress said to senior sister and Bai Luo. They may be the most uncontrollable factor in this meeting of kings. Chapter 381 Eastern Expedition Emperor. Here they are. The last to arrive were none other than the Lords of Miracles from the southern continent. Not just Bai Luo, but everyone else looked on. The representatives of the south attending the meeting were few, only 7. The Lords of Miracles couldn't tell their types based on appearance alone. Their reconnaissance skills were ineffective against them, and even their personal deductions were peculiarly unpredictable when encountering the kings. There are so many of you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so many, I can't count them all. It's embarrassing to walk with you. The southern kings consisted of 4 men and 3 women, but Bai Luo could tell at a glance who their leader was. He was an old man with short white hair, dressed in a linen robe and holding a shepherd's staff. His aura wasn't sharp, but rather a soft, comfortable air that made him approachable. Be polite, everyone, the old man smiled, looking at the 6 Lords of Miracles behind him, his eyes as if he were his own children. Got it, old man, don't worry, we won't fight. Seats? Over here, over here. I see where we are. The younger one was a girl of 12 or 13. Judging by Wang Wei's impression, she should have only been awake 2 times, maybe 3 at most. Idiot, don't sit on the table. The boy puffed up at the reprimand, then pointed at Feng Du from the Eastern Empire. He's sitting on the table too. Feng Du's mouth twitched slightly as he noticed the boy's intense gaze. With a dry cough, Feng Du sat down properly, setting a good example for the other southern kings. Are you bringing them out here to watch the fun? Bai Luo was a little surprised. This group of southern kings looked like a family outing accompanied by their elders. Far from being awe-inspiring, they were actually quite warm and speechless. You guys play here, be good. The old man patted the girl and boy on the head, then walked off to the other side. I'm going to say hello to someone I know. Long time no see. Emperor Dongzheng. Ying girl, long time no see. Ying Muian and the Emperor Dongzheng were acquaintances. During their greeting, she relayed a message to Bai Luo. All the Lords of Miracles in the southern continent are under his command. Bai Luo had certainly heard of the Emperor Dongzheng, but he had never imagined the legendary Emperor Dongzheng would be such a kindly old man. Apparently a harmless fellow, yet possessing the ultimate power in the miracle world. Bai Luo found it incredible. Force can conquer the body, but it cannot conquer the mind. The Emperor Dongzheng seemed to notice the relationship between Ying Muian and Bai Luo. He apologized to the Eastern Empress. Excuse me, do you mind if I chat with this gentleman? No need to ask. The Emperor Dongzheng was a Lord of Miracles from 200,000 years ago, his power unfathomable. In the miracle world, the Eastern Expedition Emperor is as renowned as the Holy Emperor and the Ancient Emperor, collectively known as the 3 Elders. However, these 3 share a common trait. They have no interest in power and never resort to force. They are powerful figures, both in terms of strength and morality, commanding respect and admiration. Is that weapon no longer with you? The Eastern Expedition Emperor cut straight to the point, without beating around the bush. He wasn't here to accuse someone. Be careful, child. That weapon is dangerous. If you lose control, something terrible could happen, right? The Eastern Expedition Emperor extended his hand to Bai Luo, who shook it. Welcome back, little Bais Hao. Bai Luo was surprised that the Eastern Expedition Emperor knew so much. Don't worry, he's not an enemy, Ying Muian reassured Bai Luo, explaining that the Eastern Expedition Emperor and Ying Bais Hao were good friends. Back when Ying Bais Hao was just starting out and working alongside Ying Muian, they were hunted by powerful miracle lords, forcing them to travel to the southern continent to seek help. After years of isolation, the southern continent endured the trials of the Eastern Expedition Emperor and earned his friendship. For 10,000 years, regardless of the southern continent's relations with the other kings, the Eastern Expedition Emperor alone had unwaveringly sided with Bai Luo and Ying Mulian. The Eastern Expedition Emperor, don't worry, I'll support you this time too. The Eastern Expedition Emperor gave Bai Luo and Ying Mulian a reassuring look. If the old uncle had conquered the fat old fool and earned the favor of the Holy Empire, then Ying Muliang and Ying Beizhao had earned the friendship of the southern continent. They were among the very few who knew the landscape of the southern continent 10,000 years ago. Of course, after 10,000 years, no one knew what new things had emerged there. This was why Ying Muliang had been a little nervous earlier. She wasn't sure the Eastern Expedition Emperor was still the same. Fortunately, her concerns were misplaced. The old man remained the same, unchanged. Speaking of which, have you gone to meet the ancient emperor? The ancient emperor did not come to this meeting. Ying Muliang responded, he is not interested in these things, it really looks like him. After that, the Eastern Expedition Emperor did not say anything else. He went straight back to the seating area of the kings of the southern continent, and then waited quietly for the meeting to begin. Jedmans, what? Senior sister's words were very sudden. Bai Luo was puzzled. What? Jedmans, the old man who just spoke to us is the emperor of the Eastern Expedition you mentioned, senior sister said. He is a Jedman. What is that? Bai Luo didn't know what Jedmans were. A certain race? The same as us Atón people? No, senior sister didn't know how to explain, because she had stolen this knowledge from the queen's memory. I can't explain what Jedman is, but the three emoticons we met before, they are also Jedmans. Huh? Bai Luo, are those three businessmen also Jedmans? The biggest feature of the Jedmans is their unique breath, senior sister. In addition, if I'm not mistaken, the ancient emperor mentioned by the emperor of the Eastern Expedition is very likely a Jedman. The origin of the Jedmans is very special. They lived in the era of the giants, that is, the Yajans, and are very ancient creatures. So don't be fooled by him, senior sister said. This old man is definitely not just the master of a 200,000-year miracle, especially from his attitude when he spoke to you, Xiao Luo, about the risks of dusk. I can be sure of that, senior sister said. He's very familiar with dusk. He may even have witnessed its power firsthand. What's wrong with you, old man? Yes, I've been silent since a while ago. Although he was waiting for the meeting to begin, the Eastern Expedition Emperor was a little too quiet. Nothing. I'm just tired and ready to take a nap. Call me when the meeting starts, okay, old man, get some rest. We're here for you. A smile broke out on the Eastern Expedition Emperor's aged face again. He glanced in senior sister's direction, then sighed deeply in his heart. The ultimate winner of the Battle of Azerbaijan is you, Isifia. Chapter 382, Trouble. With the arrival of the Southern Kings, the Eastern Empire and the Far Northern Empire also became the focal points of the entire King's Conference, thanks to the Emperor's presence. In fact, these imperial-level miracle lords rarely attended previous 10,000 Kings Conferences. It wasn't that they looked down on the Miracle Union Conference, but rather that there was simply not much going on there on weekdays. If there was a truly major event, the Holy Emperor and the prophets of each nation would definitely notify them in advance, just as they did this time. Almost every miracle lord who could make it was already present. 173 miracle lords were present, though that wasn't an exaggeration, but it was definitely at least 100. I am honored to have you here. The elector stood at the front of the vast fan-shaped conference room. He saluted the Holy Emperor, the Eastern Expedition Emperor, the Far North Empress, and the Eastern Empress, the four supreme leaders representing their respective countries. I am the organizer of this meeting, so I will preside. I hope you will give me the honor and put aside your usual disputes for now. I will not waste any more time on unnecessary nonsense, the elector said. Besides some minor matters and conflicts, I believe that your greatest concern this time is probably the incident that occurred earlier. The elector went straight to the point, putting the most important matter before the kings. He was clearly aware that without resolving the Twilight issue, no one would be in the mood to discuss anything else. According to the prophet's judgment, the most likely place for that miracle to appear, the elector said, looking towards the location of the Principality of Atón. Please explain, Grand Duke Atón. Atón, that Atón? The one from 200 years ago? Wasn't it destroyed by the Iron Eagle King? I think I've heard before about a new Lord of Miracles. Those who discussed this weren't usually kings closely associated with my uncle. They mostly hailed from the northern continent, home to the Eastern Empire and the Ancient Empire. As for the new miracle continent, Bai Luo's presence was no secret. Those who knew my uncle had heard of the Principality of Atón after the Battle of the Ancient Capital and immediately guessed its connection to my uncle. How do you plan to respond, young man? The Far North Emperor sat side by side with Excelia. The latter was also keeping an eye on Atón, but her gaze was more focused on her senior sister. I obtained that miracle. Bai Luo stood up. Without concealing anything, he walked directly towards the elector, standing before hundreds of kings. Prince Atón is very self-aware. The elector, now no longer a Dumuan, could not show any animosity towards Atón. Then please give everyone a reasonable explanation. The kings may also ask questions of His Highness Atón according to their doubts. What do you think, Prince Atón? Yes, the Lords of Miracles were equal in status, no one was superior to the other. Therefore, the kings would not use an interrogative tone, that would be rude. At this meeting, I believe everyone is eager to know about the miracle. Bai Luo, please feel free to ask. I will not hold anything back if I can answer it. The kings in front of him fell silent. Bai Luo handed the initiative to them, rather than speaking on his own. What surprised Bai Luo was that the kings did not rush to ask questions. Instead, they focused their attention on the emperors of the great empires. Clearly, even in the world of miracles, the strong reigned supreme. If the great emperors did not speak, the weaker princes would not dare to ask first. Besides, if the sky fell, there would be someone taller to hold it up. This matter was no simple matter. The aura of devastation was no longer the province of a single miracle master. Since no one has spoken first, let me offer a suggestion. The Holy Emperor's voice was serious, but as he glanced at Bai Luo, he gave him a subtle, suggestive look. What kind of miracle is this? Since you're willing to share everything you know, young man, please tell us about it first. Of course, Bai Luo understood the fat old fool's hint, and he had never intended to conceal the existence of dusk. The information about the supreme miracle was impossible to conceal, and revealing it himself was definitely better than the prophets. You all know that there are 28 factions of miracles, Bai Luo said. The miracle I have obtained is the most powerful miracle in one of these factions, the supreme miracle, dusk of the age of gods, supreme. The kings, unaware of the truth, began to discuss the situation, while the prophets, already informed, also expressed a solemn expression. They clearly understood the horror of dusk more clearly than the ignorant. The age of divine twilight is a very dangerous miracle. Its highest status only illustrates its terrifying power. Feng Zai began. I believe the prophets must have sensed the destructive aura of that earlier scene. My question, Feng Zai said, is how can you guarantee that possessing such a powerful miracle won't pose a threat to others? Feng Zai finished speaking, but before Bai Luo could speak, Yingmu Yang said in a deep voice, let him finish first. There are probably many people who have never heard of Twilight. Feng Zai and Yingmu Yang were both from the Eastern Empire, and theoretically, they should have a monarch-subject relationship. The Eastern Empire wasn't like Iron Eagle or Starry Night, it was a truly centralized power. But what was going on now? Feng Zai, a vassal king, had simply ignored Yingmu Yang. If it were just this, it wouldn't be a big deal, but the Eastern Empress immediately rebuked him. A contradiction. Was the Eastern Empire in turmoil? Or was it just a show? No way. Back in the Mountain Kingdom, King Aole and King Sky exchanged a glance, each seeing the confusion in the other's eyes. With the strength of the Eastern Empire, there's no need for a show, right? Could there really be some internal problems? At this moment, Yingmu Yang was also very dissatisfied. Feng Zai's sudden move was clearly intended to disrupt her rhythm. This guy saw that fatty old man was helping Bai Luo, so he took the initiative to prevent Bai Luo from maintaining his composure. Your Highness the Eastern Empress, and Your Excellency Feng Zai, Bai Luo comforted his sister through the voice of miracles, but he was not affected. You both have a point, but please allow me to take them one by one. There are so many people here, and so many questions. If everyone interrupts me like you, no matter how powerful I am, I won't be able to win over you all. Brother, Feng Wei hurriedly tugged at her brother's sleeve, only to find that Feng Zai sat down calmly, seemingly completely unconcerned with the other's gazes. Your Excellency is right, Feng Zai said, but I believe that a supreme miracle is beyond the comprehension of most people. The most crucial issue is its authenticity. Words are not enough. We cannot just trust your answer. Exactly, Feng Zai spoke quickly. He looked at the Marquis of Xianxi of Iron Eagle, the Sky King of the Mountains, and Queen Kane of the Starry Night Empire. There are more than one prophet here. How about listening to their opinions first? Chapter 383 Iron Eagle King, I don't know anything, it's none of my business. Regardless of Feng Zai's personality, interrupting Bai Luo's preparations right off the bat was rather rude. However, One had to admit that this move by the other party had put Bai Luo in a very passive position. As the master of the highest-ranking miracle, my words are only one-sided. Among those present were prophets, and he pointed to prophets from 3 countries in succession, which was enough to guarantee the objectivity and fairness of their words. Most importantly, the kings really wanted to know the origin and power of dusk. Bai Luo couldn't comment on Feng Zai's wisdom, but he gave a positive evaluation of his annoying abilities. He really wanted to kill him. Bai Luo would never show mercy to those who showed hostility towards him. Marcus Xianzi, King of the Sky, and Queen Cain, Feng Zai said, "You 3 are all among the most formidable prophets. Why don't you explain to us the twilight of the age of the gods?" The 3 prophets were veterans with over 4,000 years of experience. Leaving aside the newly ascended kings, most people knew their personalities and conduct intimately. In other words, everyone was well aware of their personalities, which made their words far more credible than Bai Luo's. "Senior Feng Zai, you really love to cause us trouble when it comes to offending people, but there's nothing we can do about it." Marcus Xianzi was the first to rise. She frowned at Bai Luo, who stood in front of her. "I know this might offend His Excellency Duke Atón, but for the sake of the stability of the miracle world, I must renounce my position." "Wow," she said she'd renounce her position. "Are you serious? You're practically declaring war right out of the gate. Is this the Iron Eagle Kingdom's intention, or just Xianzi's?" "What the hell?" Iron Eagle King panicked. "That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. Starry Night, Iron Eagle, Mountains, Far North, Sacred, as well as the 2 principalities of Brilliant and Azure, and even the Pirate Kings all stared at the Marcus of Heavenly Mandate in surprise, shocked by her attitude. What kind of miracle was this dusk? The Marcus of Heavenly Mandate, who never fought anyone, was so resolute, willing to make Bai Luo his enemy just to be the first to speak out. "Another prophet has arrived." Bai Luo gritted his teeth inwardly, his rhythm completely disrupted. "It's just like my uncle said, the Council of Kings can't plan ahead. They probably already knew my ideas and methods. In fact, Feng Zai might have already encountered the Marcus of Heavenly Mandate in future trajectory and discussed it countless times." "Prophet, Bai Luo, what a disgusting bunch of bitches." Marcus Xianzi, "Huh, Bai Luo, I don't know how I've offended you, but I beg you to speak with fairness. There was no other way." Unable to resolve the issue with force, Bai Luo could only retreat verbally. He had to at least warn the kings that Xianzi seemed to have a grudge against him, and that her words couldn't be fully trusted. "But is Queen Cain also a prophet?" "I can't tell." Bai Luo looked at his uncle, who immediately spoke through the voice of miracles. "We're not completely at a disadvantage." "Not really," Bai Luo pondered, immediately understanding what his uncle meant. "Is Queen Cain on our side? The Age of Divine Dusk, that is the most dangerous artifact in the 28 factions." The Marcus Xianzi's stance was clear, and her attitude left Bai Luo bewildered. But considering her prophetic status, he suspected the Marcus Xianzi had clashed with him countless times in the future. "I've seen countless futures and fought countless battles with him." The Marcus of Xianzi's words didn't surprise the veteran kings, but some of the younger lords of miracles were clearly taken aback. Could it be this way? And yet, every time, I died at his hands. Speaking of which, big sister, if you know the outcome, is there any need to be so aggressive? With this villain-like attitude, Bai Luo felt she must have never read a certain novel. Knowing it was a dead end, she still insisted on being Bai Luo's enemy. What's the difference between banging her head against a wall? Shouldn't she make peace with him and make peace with him? "You must be very surprised, right?" Marcus Xianzi said to Bai Luo, "Since the result I calculated is only a dead end, why should I be your enemy? How ridiculous." Marcus Xianzi's expression was very serious, and his eyes were cold. "I once begged you, even gave up my dignity and knelt down to you, but so what? You still destroyed my country and massacred my people. I, Xianzi, swear by the power of miracles that I have never used the power of destiny to harm anyone. For 4,000 years, I have only used this power to save and warn others, that's all." But this man, Marcus Xianzi's words were so sharp that Bai Luo was stunned. "He brought a large army, wielding that flaming sword, and destroyed me and everything of yours. Here, I want to ask your excellency." The words of Marcus Xianzi made Bai Luo clench his fists secretly, and his brain worked even faster, trying to come up with a plan to break the deadlock. "Is your dusk a flaming crossed sword?" Bai Luo was stunned. He'd expected Marcus Xianzi to ask, "Why are you destroying my country?" Instead, he was asking if dusk was a sword. This guy, Bai Luo suddenly realized Xianzi's intention. She was playing a trick on him. Xianzi's words are groundless, and future vision is just a possibility, Bai Luo said. But the dusk sword, whether true or false, will only make the king's present begin to doubt me. Yes, Bai Luo took a deep breath and then tried his best to remain elegant. The more pressure he felt, the calmer he had to remain and not lose his composure. Dusk is a miraculous object. It's attached to a cross sword, really, so, in the future, he will destroy Xianzi. From what Sister Xianzi said, he shouldn't just destroy a country. Is this guy so dangerous? A cross sword burning with flames. Among the kings, Earl of Thorns looked at Bai Luo in horror. He was a little confused, very confused. Is it him? Is he the one who will kill me? I beg to differ with your idea. At the critical moment, Queen Cain stood up. Although her words were brief, she stood on Bai Luo's side. According to what you said, there is only one future. Have you seen the kings gathered here? Have you seen yourself questioning him like this here, to say such things here based on your own calculations? Queen Cain scolded. This is not the attitude a prophet should have. Chapter 384 Variables. Everyone present was a lord of miracles. Even if they weren't, they were still miraculous creatures, supreme beings possessing infinite power. This also meant that simply relying on future vision and the ability to capture the trajectory of fate, no prophet could possibly foresee the contents of the king's council. Impossible, absolutely impossible. After all, there were over 100 lords of miracles present. The sheer number of people gathered here interfered with the power of fate to an almost unimaginable degree. So, you haven't seen yourself, right here, at this moment, questioning the person before you with those words just now, am I correct? Since he couldn't see the king's council, the Marquess of Heavenly Will certainly hadn't witnessed him confront Bai Luo. Therefore, her claim of praying to Bai Luo by any means was completely unfounded. Putting aside the fact that you haven't yet achieved consummation, even if you had, Queen Cain demanded, how can you be so sure, having tried every possible means, that what you saw is his future? In reality, just as Queen Cain had said, the Marquess of Heavenly Will hadn't seen Bai Luo himself. This was the strangest part, one that even he found somewhat baffling. You and I are both prophets, so you should understand why I make such a judgment, said the Marquess of Heaven's Will. I use my own calculations to calculate the intersection between him and me, using various possibilities as premises to arrive at the result. Queen Cain, this is not complete, but it is the only way to deduce the Lord of Miracles. Both women are good-tempered lords of miracles, but when it comes to their own expertise, they remain unyielding. It seems I must say a few words. The Sky King's qualifications surpass those of the two women. He has lived for over 5,000 years and is a powerful Lord of Miracles, halfway to the fifth sense. Let's ask the Heaven's Will first, said the Sky King. Do you mean to set a prerequisite, such as befriend him, become his enemy, appeal to him, apologize to him, and so on, and then observe the results under certain circumstances? Yes, Senior Sky King, Maya controls time, the Marquess of Heaven's Will is divination, and Queen Cain is a prophet. Compared to them, the Sky King's miracle was called the Tablet of Fate. Though it was only of a lower rank, his power of destiny was actually stronger than all three of them. Even Queen Cain, a higher-ranked miracle master, felt the Sky King's words carried a certain weight. It was like two freshmen encountering a junior who had several years more education and was more experienced. Then may I ask, what was your reference point? The premise is face-changing, and the first reference point is His Excellency Grand Duke Atón. The Sky King nodded to Bai Luo, who returned the greeting before continuing. Then what was the result? What were you looking at? My kingdom, and this world, the world of miracles. The Sky King was silent for a moment. If he remained silent, the other miracle masters naturally wouldn't speak either. That doesn't seem reasonable. There were about 10 prophet kings present, and they immediately noticed the non-inevitability between the results caused by the Marquess of Heaven's Will's variables. I see, Queen Cain understood instantly, while Bai Luo frowned. Fortunately, his uncle explained in time, if the result is unrelated to the variables, then this divination is meaningless. What does it mean to change one's face and have nothing to do with the result? Simply put, a person is destined to die, and what matters is not how or when they die, but where they are buried. If he had purchased this tomb decades ago, then no matter what happened in between, he would eventually be buried here. The end of destruction is constant. No matter what you do, disaster will eventually strike. Bai Luo understood, but the end is the end. It doesn't prove that I caused this end. On the contrary, if no matter how many variables can change the outcome, does that mean that the final apocalyptic scene actually has nothing to do with Bai Luo? The Marquis of Cheyennes, he wasn't out to be an enemy of Bai Luo, but rather to address the matter objectively. Though he had his own subjective opinions, he would still admit his shortcomings once he identified a problem. Senior, you're right. I was too focused on the outcome and forgot the underlying logic. That being said, the Sky King changed the subject. I agree with the outcome you saw, destruction, because I saw it too. The Sky King looked around and said, I believe everyone has a good understanding of Cheyennes' capabilities, and the prophets present here have surely already calculated this many times. I'm asking, has anyone come up with a second outcome? The prophets were all highly intelligent, which was why his uncle had told him to proceed without any preparation. Prophets weren't enemies, on the contrary, they were likely to help Bai Luo clarify his thinking. Brainstorming, one person's perspective on a problem often lacked the comprehensiveness of a group. Bai Luo didn't need to consider himself a prisoner, but rather a questioner. As for the prophets, they were external aid, there to help Bai Luo solve the problem. No, this was Feng Zai, who had given up. There's absolutely no hope. Me neither. The Marquis of Heaven's decree sat down, looking at Queen Cain. Unfortunately, even Queen Cain couldn't help Bai Luo this time. Sadly, what I saw was the same as Heaven's decree. The Sky King shook his head. This was the first time he'd encountered such a troubling situation. It was as if his fate had been locked. Although the ancient emperor didn't come, Feng Zai said, he saw the same outcome. Even the ancient emperor, many veteran miracle lords looked surprised. They genuinely didn't expect the ancient emperor to have failed to predict this. What's going on? Bai Luo watched the prophets exchange their predictions. He wasn't sure if this was a good thing or a bad thing, so he consulted Yingmu Yang and his uncle. Good news, Yingmu Yang said, if all the prophets saw an end of destruction, then you'd be able to escape. Why? The prophets trusted their own judgment, but if they couldn't change the fate of the world, was there really any need for them to become Bai Luo's enemy? Attacking Bai Luo, killing him beforehand, attacking directly, attacking in groups. Had the prophet not calculated these scenarios? Just like the Marquis of Cheyennes, she had already made Bai Luo's enemy countless times according to her own divinations, and witnessed the changes in the world under this choice through the fate and eyes of the children. I understand, Bai Luo, it's like an environmental issue. If the pollution has become so severe that it endangers every king, it's not just one person's problem, nor is it my problem. It requires everyone to act together. At that time, Bai Luo would not only not become a scourge, but would be the center of this mass extinction event, the most important variable. Feng Zai, Bai Luo was confused. Was this guy on his side, or was he going to be his enemy? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 385, Bet Big or Bet Small. Or was this also part of his calculations? Bai Luo shared the same thought as Yingmu Yang, who also stared at Feng Zai, unsure of what he was about to do. Yes, at this moment, an old voice rang out, I saw a different vision. Emperor Dongzheng, you saw a different vision? How is that possible? All the prophets were stunned, but they didn't doubt the truth of the emperor's words. After all, given his status, he couldn't possibly lie so recklessly just to protect Bai Luo. Besides, who could lie before the Lord of Miracles? Everyone present was like the latest lie detector. Anyone who spoke untruthfully would be caught in a second. What did you see? The Marquis of Cheyennes naturally admired the Emperor Dongzheng and trusted his judgment. I saw a new world, one of prosperity, flourishing, happiness, and well-being. The Eastern Expedition Emperor began to describe his vision of the future. It was like a utopia. This, Marquis Cheyennes was surprised, because she had only seen the destruction of the world. Are you sure this is the final outcome, not just a temporary one? The destruction of the world was the ultimate outcome, but if the Eastern Expedition Emperor only saw a fragment of the period before destruction, that wouldn't mean anything. No, the Eastern Expedition Emperor shook his head and said gravely, what I saw was truly the final future. No one doubted the Eastern Expedition Emperor's vision of the future. He was a prophet even more powerful than the ancient emperors, a true prophet. Emperor Eastern Expedition, Are you saying he's the future? Fat old fool spoke up at the crucial moment. The Holy Emperor's weight was no less than that of the Eastern Expedition Emperor. In fact, in this new land of miracles, he was even more powerful than the Eastern Expedition Emperor. Holy Emperor, are you supporting the newcomer? Almost instantly, most of the Lords of Miracles saw Fat Old Fool's attitude. He was on Bai Luo's side. I don't know, Emperor Dongzhang didn't say it clearly. He just looked at Bai Luo, and then looked around at everyone. I only know that this is the future I see. I have never seen such a complicated future. It will take a lot of energy to grasp that little clue, Emperor Dongzhang, but I think that since such a future exists, we can't just dismiss it with one blow. As prophets, what are we best at? It's game, but what is the essence of game? Emperor Dongzhang seemed to be giving a lesson to all the prophets present. It's probability, and how to bet, how much to bet, and where to bet. Am I right, old friend Fengzai? What you said makes sense. Fengzai stood up and said firmly, but I refuse. Fuck. Bai Luo looked at Fengzai, who inexplicably delivered a classic line, and heard him say, you saw the right thing, thought the cards were bigger, and made your own judgment, but I see this hand as a losing one, and I don't want to lose, so I plan to forfeit. Someone else is planning to put all their chips on the line, Fengzai said, looking at Queen Cain. Because she already has nothing, and if she misses this opportunity, she'll never have another chance to give it a try. But what about the others? Fengzai gestured to the crowd. Who dares to bet? This isn't surrender and lose half. This is losing and your whole family will be buried with you. It had to be said that the atmosphere originally brought about by the two emperors had shifted towards Bai Luo. Once again disrupted by Fengzai. What he said made perfect sense. The world is about to be destroyed. With such a huge stake, who would dare to place their chips lightly? Just wait for the results. It's over. Ying Muiyang's voice echoed in Bai Luo's mind, yet Bai Luo was completely bewildered. What's going on? Why can't I understand? It's actually very simple. The Eastern Empress was still the Eastern Empress. Though caught off guard by Fengzai, she quickly calmed down and understood his purpose. Fengzai isn't simply against you, he's supposed to be neutral, Ying Muiyang explained. He first proposed letting the prophets make the decision because he wanted to eliminate the ability of all the Lords of Miracles to judge for themselves. Without the prophets, the Lords of Miracles would vote arbitrarily, a chaotic mess. And now, with 3 prophets, no, 4, maybe even 5, speaking one by one, coupled with the acquiescence of the others, over a dozen prophets had practically brought the final outcome to the table. From the original 3 fans, a total of 6x6x6, hundreds of possibilities, it had become either a perfect ending or the destruction of the world. Pressure on the greater, or the lesser, Bai Luo suddenly realized, so that's how it is. The prophet's words have simplified what was once a complex matter. This way, when the other Lords of Miracles express their opinions, it becomes simply, will what I do lead to disaster, or a good thing? This transforms a complex relationship into a question of friendship or enmity with Bai Luo. Simple and crude, yet incredibly effective. Unfortunately, he's not on your side, Ying Muiyang. When the Eastern Expedition Emperor and the Holy Emperor spoke on your behalf, the balance, which had already begun to tilt in your favor, has been rebalanced because of his words. The kings are already wavering, even confused. Then a special situation will arise. Ying Muiyang, the Starry Night Kingdom will definitely make the same choice as Queen Cain. The Holy Empire is split in 2. But the Holy Emperor's words carry weight. In the southern continent, the Eastern Expedition Emperor is the authority. In the mountains, the far north, the Eastern Empire, the ancient empire, Ying Muiyang, from fighting on their own. It's become a collective vote. The kings are all steadfast men. Once they make a decision, they won't waver easily. Therefore, Bai Luo can clearly determine who is friend or foe. In the upcoming vote, anyone willing to support Bai Luo would be considered one of their own. Those who didn't were either enemies or neutral, bystanders who wouldn't help either side. Now, please, Lord Atón, express your stance. It was Bai Luo's turn to speak. His subsequent attitude and words would largely determine the future of the Duchy of Atón. Bai Luo's caution was due to the duchy's existence. He wasn't afraid. At worst, he could just walk away. But the miracle world was vast, and sooner or later, his children and subjects would encounter the king's men. What would they do then? In international diplomacy, every nation strives to be liked by others. Only then did Bai Luo understand the frustration and pressure of diplomats. I was a little impulsive in what I did earlier, But I will never do such unsolicited acts again. Bai Luo's words were primarily addressed to Morgan and Earl Thorne. If it weren't for Dusk, his previous actions would have been minor and no one would have paid much attention. But now, he was the target of public criticism, and even the smallest matter could be magnified. Therefore, with a clear stance, Bai Luo had to promise that he would not violate the sacred covenant again. He was willing to abide by the rules of the game of kings. As for my principles, I can summarize them in one sentence. Bai Luo, we will never actively infringe on anyone's rights, but the premise is that no one infringes on our rights. Chapter 386 Alliance Conference. Is that what you're saying now? Queen Kane placed her bet on Bai Luo. After learning the future envisioned by the Eastern Expedition Emperor, she believed Bai Luo could be the savior more than the world-destroying demon. But wasn't Bai Luo a little too arrogant? A few humble words would have been more appropriate at this moment. I won't offend anyone unless they offend me. Isn't that just foolish? However, Bai Luo didn't compromise. He had his own principles and a bottom line: the power of Dusk is immense. I will never use it as a means of foreign war or fighting. On the contrary, Bai Luo said, I hope you will understand. What did he mean by understanding? Bai Luo was telling the kings that, in a life or death situation, he would still use Dusk. The worst that could happen was mutual destruction. Is that your personality? The Sky King frowned slightly, but then relaxed. That actually makes me feel more at ease. If Bai Luo was now full of flattery and ingratiation, then he wasn't trustworthy at all. The truth might be blunt, but to the kings present, it was the truest truth. Don't use Twilight in foreign wars, only to protect your rights, the Elector said, a rare statement. Is that your attitude, Your Excellency Duke Atón? Yes, Bai Luo, I think that's reasonable. I won't harm you, but you can't ask me not to use Twilight even when I'm being attacked. Yes, that makes sense, but then, wouldn't any of us be able to offend him? What does that even mean? What's the point of the King's Council? To let him threaten people. The king's reactions varied. The powerful kings were naturally confident, because even the highest-ranking miracle was still a miracle. Twilight could fight 1, 2, or 3, but it absolutely couldn't face 4, 5, 8, or 10 with so many kingdoms and empires. If Bai Luo provoked even one, they would all attack, so Bai Luo was still the weaker one. In that case, I'd like to ask Lord Atón, what does it mean to have your rights violated? The Elector asked. If someone insults you, do you draw your sword? Bai Luo thought about it. He wasn't asking about the words, but about the Elector himself. Why was he asking this question? That's too much. How can you use Twilight just because someone insults you? He compared Twilight to a nuclear weapon. You were insulted, and then you launched a nuclear bomb, harming countless innocent people. Are you crazy? If you're insulted, then insult them back. What if a miracle child under a king harms your own miracle child? Well, Bai Luo hesitated, but still said, not really. The power of a miracle child is limited. The strongest is a myth. As long as Bai Luo nurtures them well, his own family will also develop a corresponding fighting force. The children's affairs are their own business. It's unreasonable for Bai Luo, as a parent, to intervene. Child of miracles versus child of miracles, Lord of miracles versus Lord of miracles, Bai Luo said. These are the rules of the game in the miracle world, and I will abide by them. Given the Atonian character, they couldn't bear the loss of being defeated and then having Bai Luo demand revenge. Even if Bai Luo offered, they would never agree, as it would be an insult. But I also ask you, please, show some mercy. Bai Luo cared deeply about the children, and since the kings were present, he offered a few words. According to the rules of the miracle war, no one's life can be cut short. They can be captured or ransomed. I hereby promise that I will never privately conduct a final judgment on anyone from another nation. Of course, Bai Luo could imprison a person or not release him, but he couldn't simply eliminate him. Leave a way out for a future encounter. After all, you never know when one of your own will be captured. Killing with ease now will only bring you heartache later. Different nations have different alliances. You can conduct diplomacy privately. The Elector offered no guarantees, as he couldn't represent all the kings. In reality, miracle wars aren't usually triggered casually. Even if a war does occur, both parties must first sign a contract. How should I put it? It's a bit like the investiture of the gods, where the souls of the deceased are protected by the power of miracles and returned to their respective masters. Of course, there's a price to pay, the loss of their current miracle power, akin to reincarnation. In this regard, Bai Luo's sudden attack on the ancient capital and his order to have Leon kill Li Zushan Xiantai are truly immoral. Earl Thorn is a weak character. Anyone else might have fought Bai Luo to the death. I must be more careful from now on. Either avoid becoming an enemy of a miracle master, or make up your mind, be prepared to pay the price, and eradicate the root of the problem. However, in this era, with a holy covenant in place, it seems that wars between nations are unlikely. It's been a long time since a miracle master has fallen. Now, then, the kings, please make your choice. The choice is simple, on-the-spot diplomacy. Bai Luo's situation is unique, and the threat of dusk is immense. The kings desperately need a safety net. Communication between the Lords of Miracles is a heart-to-heart conversation. If both parties can sign a miracle contract, even a small one, they can sense their allies' attitudes. For example, if Duang Aole and Bai Luo experienced a change in Duang Aole's personality, Bai Luo would immediately sense it through the miracle contract. I'll go first. Queen Cain, a woman of great courage, immediately exchanged 1% of her royal prestige with Bai Luo, forming a contract. Oh, is that the man? Queen Cain sat down. She knew Bai Luo, and Bai Luo knew her too. Then I'll go second. King Sky and King Aole were old friends, and the latter had repeatedly urged him, from now on, please, Lord Atón, show mercy to my boys. Both sides. Bai Luo exchanged another 1% of his royal prestige with someone, thinking to himself that his uncle was right. The king's meeting truly gave him peace of mind. The Sky King was aloof and noble. He disdained backstabbing and acted openly and honestly, a wise and righteous ruler. With such an ally, Bai Luo would never have to worry about the Sky King turning against him, unless he suffered a devastating blow and became a completely changed person, or if Bai Luo betrayed his loyalty first. Alliance with Ni too, the Eastern Empress stood up, surprising the other kings. The Heavenly Queen, upon learning the truth, was deeply displeased. It wasn't that Ying Muliang's miraculous status meant she was inferior to the Heavenly Queen. Even if the Eastern Empress were truly a miraculous creature, the Heavenly Queen would still be willing to follow her, for Ying Muliang was truly noble. But now, Ying Muliang's relentless pursuit of men left the feminist Heavenly Queen feeling deeply frustrated. The Eastern Empress had once been her faith, but now, that faith had collapsed. Chapter 387 The boss has said it, who among the younger brothers dares to say no? Collapse aside, the alliance with Bai Luo remained. Yes, she was allying with Bai Luo, not the Eastern Empress. The queen wanted to know more about Bai Luo's character. That's the feeling. The queen was speechless. Through the miracle covenant, she had a basic understanding of Bai Luo's character. Isn't this a little man? In the queen's eyes, Ying Muliang should have been the kind of powerful figure who looked down upon the world and needed no one to rely on. But now, it seemed like she was nothing more than a gentle big sister with an overflowing maternal instinct. What a joke. Men were nothing but playthings in the eyes of the queen. The queen, with countless lovers, never took men seriously, like some electronic toy. If she got upset or couldn't meet her needs, she'd smash them to pieces in a matter of seconds. Could such a person really destroy the world? The queen fell into deep thought. Bai Luo cared about the principality of Atón. He wasn't a heartless man, fundamentally different from lunatics like Bai Birch Tree. Or is there something wrong with that weapon called dusk? It wasn't just the Queen of Heaven. Many of the miracle lords allied with Bai Luo had similar speculations. They had never seen a supreme miracle, but they had heard that it was the only one of all miracles that could disregard its master's wishes and even influence their very existence. That makes sense, the Queen of Heaven thought to herself. Twilight itself is dangerous and can change its master's will. Therefore, the prophets saw not his future, but Twilight's. On the contrary, the Eastern Expedition Emperor saw a brighter era. The Queen of Heaven's lips curled slightly, understanding. Controlled Twilight. There were two possible futures. One was for Bai Luo to be transformed by Twilight, becoming a world-destroying demon. The other was for Bai Luo to control Twilight. Given Bai Luo's personality, he wouldn't harm others without reason. If the leader of the miracle world was someone like this, it was entirely possible to forge a perfect and glorious new era. Isn't that wonderful? The Queen of Heaven sneered to herself. The balance of the world rests in our hands. Whether things improved or deteriorated, Bai Luo would naturally strive, but external forces were also crucial. What external force? The trade house. These restless traders could use any means to force Bai Luo to make a choice. In this way, the trade house became a remote control, and Bai Luo a perfect tool. Bai Luo continued to form alliances while sending the king's aspirations to his uncle and other miracles, asking them to help screen them. The Queen of Heaven is in too. King Kun was also there. She and the Queen of Heaven were from the same generation of kings, both masters of miracles from 4,000 years ago. Blacklist her. The Queen of Heaven was restless, so King Kun placed her on the list of dangerous kings, making her a target of close surveillance. Let's go. Form an alliance with him. The Far North Emperor and the other kings had almost formed alliances, so they brought Excelia forward and exchanged Miracle King power with Bai Luo. It wasn't much, but it was enough to establish a mutual rapport. This guy, Bai Luo, was stunned by the Far North Emperor's king power, then looked at the man before him with some surprise. Is he a saint? In Bai Luo's perception, the Far North Emperor possessed a character characterized by generosity, benevolence, loyalty, humility, elegance, nobility, and compassion, nearly the most righteous qualities of a human being. Of course, he was not without flaws. For example, he disliked unscrupulous destroyers and deeply loathed those like the Lord of the Birch Tree. In short, he was what his uncle had described as the Lord of Miracles, representing the righteous and kind camp. Miracles and their masters, it was precisely because their masters were kind that they received kind miracles. Conversely, ogres didn't become ogres because they received miracles, but rather because they loved eating people, which led them to seek out miracles. Dusk is dangerous, the Far North Emperor said, shaking Bai Luo's hand. Please use caution. He indeed knew something about dusk, and Bai Luo felt this was no exception. The Eastern Expedition Emperor and the Holy Emperor likely knew more than the Eastern Female Empress. As for the source of the Far North Emperor's information, the world was vast, and it was impossible to be certain. If there were no external enemies, Bai Luo replied, why would I need to use dusk? Indeed, the Far North Emperor said, if needed, I can provide assistance. Here, on behalf of the Far North Empire, I assure you that I will never actively infringe upon your territory or rights in Atón. Thank you. With such a promise from a nation's highest leader, Bai Luo felt that the Far North Emperor was truly a man of integrity, living up to his reputation. I will not invade a single inch of Far North land. This was a fundamental premise of the conflict among kings in the miracle world. The Miracle Kingdom's territory was quite vast, encompassing the multiverse, the endless dimensions, and the planar sea. Many areas had already been occupied. However, the Sacred Covenant established standards for which worlds belonged to the kings and which did not. It wasn't a first-come, first-served basis. Whoever discovered the world first would own it. Bai Luo's attitude was also very positive. If he encountered a plane already occupied by another nation in the miracle world, he would definitely not allow anyone to enter. It was like a colony in the age of exploration. If someone else had already taken it, and you wanted to keep it, you should at least notify them. By the same token, others would also greet Bai Luo on his territory. In a nutshell, the Clash of Kings is theoretically more like the Olympics, where everyone comes out to show off the strength of their people. As long as the Lords of Miracles on both sides control themselves, no one will die. HMPH, the Far North Queen did not ally with Bai Luo. She was targeting the Queen, but she did not trust her. However, it did not matter. Her miracle power and that of the Far North Emperor were connected. As long as the Far North Emperor was tied to the warship, the Far North Queen would have to agree even if she didn't want to. If she dared to attack Bai Luo, the Far North Emperor would definitely stop her. Soon, with the speeches and choices of the Holy Emperor, the Eastern Queen, the Eastern Expedition Emperor, the Far North Emperor and others, Bai Luo gained the friendship of 70 or 80 Lords of Miracles. Unfortunately, there were still many kings who did not express their opinions. Even after seeing the attitude of the big guys, they remained unmoved. Bai Luo took a quick look, then mentally questioned his uncle and Ying Wang, confirming the identities of these miracle lords. Almost without exception, they all came from the same insane faction as the foolish old feast. Most of these chaotic idiots disregarded order, even eager to provoke Bai Luo. Worst case scenario, they'd both perish together. After all, the entire world would be buried with them. People like this truly gave Bai Luo a headache. Madman, what can you do? Ying Muiyang relayed. Don't worry, Ying Muiyang relayed. Even if those guys really wanted to attack you, we allies will stop them. At least the great Emperor of the Far North will definitely act as your shield. Chapter 388. Your problem is solved, others' problems are just beginning. Is there such a good thing? Why else do you think we asked you to stand up at the king's meeting? Ying Muiyang explained. Although the prophets possess strategic foresight, their words don't represent everything. The miracle kings aren't puppets. They won't simply follow the prophet's word. This is understandable. Who wouldn't believe that they were destined to receive a miracle? How could a king be so easily deceived? Even if some miracle lords advocated for Bai Luo's destruction today, there would surely be many more who would ally with him. The diplomacy and relationships of the miracle world are so complex, you can never predict what will happen next, even if you're a powerful prophet. That's good. In fact, the current situation shows that the great emperors, led by the Holy Emperor, are almost all on Bai Luo's side. The situation of the ancient great emperor is currently unclear, as he hasn't even come. As for the rest, Yingmu Yang also said that those willing to ally with Bai Luo will serve as a shield for him, saving him from trouble. What's their attitude? Let's wait and see, Yingmu Yang analyzed. Even I wouldn't kill him immediately upon hearing this. The Lord of Miracles has an infinite lifespan, so we have plenty of time. Just wait 20 or 30 years. As long as Bai Luo does things peacefully, such as expanding in a legitimate manner and seeking revenge with legitimate reasons, the kings won't be pushovers and won't interfere. Even if Bai Luo truly desires unification, wanting to be the only one left in the world, the victor takes all. If you can win, that's your ability. I have no right to argue. But things will change in the future, Yingmu Yang said. If you plan to conquer the world and build a unified empire, then, the Eastern Empress hesitated at this point. The miracle she awakened was the Emperor of all ages. The name of this miracle revealed her character and purpose. A higher-level miracle can create a world unto itself, and the ultimate goal is to create a complete, unified world belonging only to oneself, even allowing oneself to replace the entire world and become the new world will. To say Yingmu Yang didn't harbor such thoughts was outrageous, especially considering she was the most aggressive emperor of all miracles. Therefore, among all the kings, Yingmu Yang was considered extremely aggressive, a powerful individual who sought to conquer everyone and bring them to their knees. Such individuals would sooner or later face off against all the lords of miracles in the miracle world. If you think I'm okay with that, Yingmu Yang said. It wasn't that she was trying to dissuade Bai Luo. She naturally advocated for Bai Luo's goal of unifying the world. But if Bai Luo didn't want to, Yingmu Yang would accept that. However, Bai Luo didn't say anything directly, because he knew Yingmu Yang must have read his true heart. Who wouldn't dream of unifying the world? Perhaps those benevolent and righteous monarchs, those saintly kings, wouldn't pursue such a goal, but Bai Luo, he did. I understand, Yingmu Yang secretly clenched her fists. She was Bai Luo's sister, a miracle creature herself, and she would grant Bai Luo any wish. In a sense, the prophet's judgment was not wrong. Because deep down, Bai Luo's ambitions were indeed there. When he had grown stronger and no longer needed to depend on others for his actions, Bai Luo would definitely do something. But that would be a long time in the future, definitely not now. Keeping a low profile was what Bai Luo needed to do now. It seems the matter has come to an end, said his uncle. Next, let's listen to what others have to say. Bai Luo returned to his seat. His affairs weren't something that could be decided by a single vote, nor did international meetings ever lead to sanctions against a single nation. In short, as long as Bai Luo performed well in the future, the kings would have no reason to intervene and would naturally not become enemies of Atón. As for now, Bai Luo's affairs were resolved, and it was time for others to deal with them. That's it for the Twilight issue for now. The Elector reappeared as host. Let me see what's next. The most important issue, the one that everyone was most interested in, had been resolved. They could discuss the rest later. The king's meetings were long anyway. It's from the king of the East Sea. The Elector summoned a parchment scroll and turned to a woman among the kings, seated near Azure and Brilliant. Regarding the matter being targeted by the swordswoman, the king of the East Sea. Bai Luo had heard of her name. They had previously exchanged a miracle pact, making them both an ally and a neighbor. Dressed in a red wedding gown, crowned with a phoenix crown and vermilion hairpin in the style of the 9 continents, the king of the East Sea had strikingly fair skin. Seeing Bai Luo observing her, the woman didn't bristle, but instead nodded politely. Yes, Bai Luo quickly returned the greeting, then remembered this woman's miracle, lower-level miracle building, the eternally buried Emperor's Mausoleum. It was said that she was from the 9 continents, home to the Eastern Empire, but her parents had sold her to a deceased man for a ghost marriage. Furthermore, the man's parents demanded that the king of the East Sea be buried with him, burying him alive. The king of the East Sea lay alone in his coffin, with only a rooster by his side. All she could do was cry out in despair and struggle. However, this implicitly implies the awakening requirement of the eternally buried emperor, giving her a glimmer of hope. It was for this reason that the kings bestowed upon the king of the East Sea a very special title, Corpse Bride. I have encountered a problem, and I would appreciate your judgment. The corpse bride raised her delicate hand, placing her exquisite sleeve before her, half hiding her gaze. I have discovered a very wonderful world, and there I have planted my miracle derivative, coffin fungus. I clearly discovered that world first, the corpse bride said, discontentedly gazing at the female sword emperor. Yet Her Excellency, the female sword emperor, has cultivated followers there, created a profession called Maotian Taoist priests, and has been killing my little cuties everywhere. Please judge, the corpse bride replied. How could this be? Wait a minute, Bai Luo's brain cells were a little strained. He heard something, coffin fungus, a familiar term, and Maotian Taoist priests, the little cuties this woman is talking about, aren't they zombies? Thinking of a world suddenly filled with coffin fungi, and of people inexplicably resurrecting after death, Bai Luo felt that such a world was terrifying. That makes sense, the emperor-elect said seriously. Female sword emperor, you're being somewhat immoral. Immoral? Bai Luo was a little confused. She had created zombies. If this guy were in Bai Luo's previous life, from a human perspective, he would have been a completely undeniable evil god. Chapter 389 Two Evil Gods. Here, I must correct something. The Sword Queen remained calm, as if this matter had nothing to do with her. And indeed, she pointed at Feng Du, who lowered his head and tried to pretend to be nothing. Although the suffix Taoist is used in the name of Maotian Taoist priests, I didn't teach them those spells. Corpse bride, you're accusing the wrong person. That guy is the mastermind, not the Sword Queen. The corpse bride was stunned, then overjoyed. If it had been the Sword Queen, she wouldn't have dared to fight for it, and would have simply yielded. But if it had been someone else. The corpse bride followed the Sword Queen's finger, and the next moment, her face darkened. Feng Du, who are you pointing at? Feng Du quickly hid his head under the table. He poked his head out and found that the Sword Queen's hand was still pointing at him. Hey, that's too much, Sword Queen, you actually called me the mastermind. Feng Du was speechless. He said, I just happened to pass by and casually gave those mortals a little power, so it was you. The gap between lower-level miracles and mid-level miracles is not as great as that between higher-level miracles. The corpse bride and Feng Du were both masters of miracles from 1,000 years ago. Their status and strength were similar. The conflict now caused even Feng Du a headache. Isn't this the first time? The corpse bride felt Feng Du was simply against her, last time, too, and the time before that. Are you deliberately going against me? Do you want to start a war? In the past, the corpse bride would never have gone to war with Feng Du. After all, the Eastern Empire was too powerful for her to provoke. But now it was different. The corpse bride had a premonition that a powerful alliance would soon emerge from their side. That was Bai Luo. Bai Luo's power was growing stronger, and the corpse bride could sense it clearly through Wang Wei. And with such a person so close to her hometown, she would either live in fear every day or simply go and join him. The corpse bride wasn't the only one with this idea. Besides the other three pirates, there were also Glorious and Azure. Nearly 11 miracle lords in total shared similar thoughts. Adding Bai Luo himself, 12 miracles were enough to make him king. Brother, you have to help me. The corpse bride, we're neighbors. We'll see each other soon. You can't take sides with outsiders. Bai Luo rubbed his head awkwardly. We don't seem to know each other, do we? Chi, Bai Luo saw a black card flying towards him and quickly caught it. This is free, no money. The corpse bride was known as a den of brothels. Even the Lord of Miracles would sneak in to have fun. If Bai Luo was interested, the corpse bride would treat him well, and he would be a super VIP, a supreme black card. As Bai Luo said, they weren't familiar with each other, but that was only now. After a few visits to the brothel, how could they not be familiar? By then, they would be friends. If this friend was bullied, would Bai Luo have the nerve not to speak up for her? Prince Atón, don't listen to her. Feng Du immediately noticed that Bai Luo's principality of Atón was located near the waters of the King of the East Sea, and quickly said, zombies are so ugly, not cute at all. If you want to go, you'd better think carefully. Bai Luo was still wondering what the corpse bride had in store, but she actually gave him several eye signals, asking him to help her speak. After thinking about it, Bai Luo realized that the corpse bride seemed to be the most powerful brothel owner in Miracle World. Her dragon boat was said to be a paradise, with fine wine and food, and beautiful women as companions. It was a true paradise, a place of comfort and a hero's tomb. However, Feng Du's reminder made Bai Luo realize, could those beauties be zombies? If so, Bai Luo thought it was very heavy. Nonsense, the corpse bride was furious. While her daughters weren't living beings, they were still ghostly immortals. Even if they were zombies, they were all stunning, 1,000-year-old corpse princesses. My daughters are all pure yin virgins, and how can zombies not be cute? The corpse bride hated it most when her taste was questioned. She lifted a strange, crimson, furry creature from under the table that resembled both a lion and a tiger. My how is so cute. Hey, I can't pretend I didn't hear you. Feng Du was furious and pulled out a stuffed animal that looked like a dragon, but wasn't. My Tingdi is 100 times cuter than your how. The how roared, woo woo. Tingdi roared, boo woo woo. Two powerful warriors, at least king level, were forced to appear at the king's council as dolls by the terrifying power of miracles. Inexplicably, he felt a sense of frustration. What are you arguing about? What do you think this place is? King Aole slammed the table in dissatisfaction. Also, who gave you permission to bring pets in? Who gave you permission? Give me this dog and that sheep. Quick, keep them here until the meeting is over. King Aole was a senior, and he had no problem with the corpse bride and Feng Du, so he had no choice but to hand over the figurines. So, King Aole cradled the two figurines of mythical beasts in his arms, occasionally petting them, and suddenly felt the world become a lot quieter. Although they're not Brother Bai Luo's fairies, these two are super cute. King Aole secretly decided that when he returned to Aole Kingdom, he would make 2 copies for his collection. That's roughly what happened. Let me summarize, the elector said. First, the corpse bride discovered a plane perfect for her cultivation. What was that? Zombies. The corpse bride said this, but inwardly she was filled with disdain. You idiot, you're the most frequent visitor to my house, and yet you pretend not to know me. Men, yes, zombies. The elector couldn't boast of his in-depth research on zombies, especially the corpse princesses. They're like the vampires of the K-Knight royal family, not the same, not at all. However, the elector ignored the corpse bride's protests and continued, logically, as the lords of miracles, the lives of mortals in the lower realms are of no concern to us, not dead. Elector, the corpse bride, anyone bitten by a zombie will become a zombie, a derivative of my miracle, although to mortals, becoming a zombie is equivalent to death. In reality, these zombies are like humans transformed into a different species, like a mortal transformed by the power of a miracle. Perhaps the zombies were just the walking dead at first, but as they acquired miraculous powers, their dormant consciousness would gradually awaken. Chapter 390 Showing Goodwill. The higher the zombies level, the more human-like they become. Some zombie girls are even infinitely more beautiful than humans, and their grip is even more amazing. Eternal youth and immortality, along with the powers granted by the corpse bride and the status of a superior being. With so many benefits, you actually say, the life and death of mortals, prejudice, this is racism. She didn't kill them, she just turned them into her own little darlings. Ahem, the elector coughed dryly. He must be aware of the corpse princess's situation, but what are you trying to do, corpse bride? Are you going to expose me? For details, you can refer to the vampires of the royal family. The corpse bride felt her intelligence insulted. After all, zombies aren't vampires. PFFT, Feng Du couldn't help but laugh, but then he was met with a corpse bride's icy gaze. Do you want to die? I'll skip the introduction, the elector said, feeling a little embarrassed. He feared social demise if he continued. Let's get straight to the end, young man Feng Du, the elector asked. Corpse bride accuses you of secretly destroying her territory and killing her people. Do you admit it? The elector wasn't asking if it was true or not, but whether you admitted it. No, how could I possibly admit that? HMPH, the corpse bride, hypocritical man. Then there's the solution, the elector said. Young man Feng Du, are you willing to retract your miraculous power? The source of Maotian Taoist power is Feng Du. A single thought, a single expression of resistance, would render all Maotian magic within that plane ineffective. In other words, he would be handing that plane over to someone else. Of course not, of course not. He wouldn't, Not in this lifetime. The corpse bride was so despicable, Feng Du had been wanting to confront her for a long time. She's clearly a woman, yet she's running a brothel and even tricking a bunch of miracle masters into running to her. Feng Du, a native of Jiazhou, is a staunch defender of morality, and he despises women like the corpse bride the most. In his territory, such an unchaste woman would have been bound and thrown into a pig cage long ago. Of course, being thrown into a pig cage doesn't mean death. Feng Du controls the power of reincarnation in the miracle world, so true death doesn't exist for his people, their souls simply reincarnate and begin anew. Therefore, Feng Du's punishment for disobedient children is to regenerate them. He's still unwilling. That's too much, that guy's going too far, the corpse bride raged. No more talk, let's fight. Let's see what we're made of. Okay, Feng Du, if you fight, I'll fight too. Who's afraid of who? And so, the corpse bride and Feng Du started arguing again, like two children fighting over a piece of cake. What's all this? Bai Luo facepalmed, feeling his entire worldview flipped upside down. Uncle, is this how the Council of Kings works, more or less? Children? Bai Luo couldn't bring himself to complain, so he could only continue watching. Then, because neither the corpse bride nor Feng Du is willing to back down, according to the Council of Kings rules, the Holy Spirit, the corpse bride, and Feng Du would each select a king as a witness to orchestrate the planar war. But why choose another witness? It was for the safety of both sides in the miracle war, to prevent a real fight. First, if it were just the corpse bride and Feng Du, then the corpse bride's child of miracles could kill the Feng Du children, and the corpse bride could intervene or not. This would be partiality, unfair, and could easily lead to real conflict. Therefore, Feng Du would select a friend she trusted and willing to help oversee the miracle war. Similarly, the corpse bride would have her friend oversee Feng Du. As for the final person, he came from the Holy Spirit, to observe whether both sides were adhering to the Holy Covenant and whether they were violating it. For example, if you sent a force above the level of a hero, or if the Lord of Miracles made a covert move, these would be considered cheating violations of the Covenant and would not be recognized internationally. Furthermore, if even one player on either side committed a foul, the other side would immediately be deemed victorious, and in this plane, they would be the victor. Accepting defeat is a gamble, and the kings would have to accept such an outcome, even if it meant losing face. Fairness and justice, everything is determined by the strength of their subjects. That, Bai Luo thought for a moment and said, that's quite good, but it seems a bit unfair to us. Bai Luo's family's miracle subjects are too few, and in a real fight, Atón would undoubtedly be at a disadvantage. Fortunately, the Covenant also stipulates that when our forces are insufficient, we can borrow troops from friendly allies. This is very humane, and Bai Luo must give it a thumbs up. Big sister, please help me. Feng Du immediately turned to Ying Mulian for help, and as his elder sister, the Eastern Empress would certainly not refuse. On the holy side, the female Sword Emperor was dispatched to oversee the situation. As for the corpse bride, Brother Atón, the sweet voice, accompanied by the sparkling eyes of Caslin, made Bai Luo feel overwhelmed. Well, we're not that close, can you please not call me that? With that, Bai Luo folded his arms and leaned towards his senior sister, seeking protection. Please, just help me. Bai Luo had dusk, and most importantly, his uncle had become his miraculous creature. With Saros around, Bai Luo was a man who surpassed even the super gods. Most importantly, Bai Luo was her neighbor, a man he would have to maintain a good relationship with from now on. Consider it a favor I owe you. If you need me in the future, the corpse bride replied, I'll be there at your beck and call. Okay, stop, this instant. Of course, Bai Luo wasn't tempted by the corpse bride, but rather, after discussing it with his uncle, he felt the need to help her. Along the southeastern coast, with 2 principalities, 2 pirate kings, and Bai Luo himself, the number far exceeded the 7 lords of miracles. Now Bai Luo had stepped forward to aid the corpse bride, a true example of the Southeast Sea's big brother. This would help Bai Luo gain the favor of the 3 lords of Azure and the 4 lords of brilliant light. Furthermore, Bai Luo needed to witness a true miracle battle, broadening his horizons and preparing for future battles with others. Thank you, little brother Atón, I love you. The corpse bride blew Bai Luo a kiss, but Alice, her senior sister's gaze snipped her off. Sensing the murderous intent in her senior sister's eyes, the corpse bride quickly straightened her posture, no longer daring to flirt with Bai Luo. Chapter 391, Bandits in the Miracle World. Boss, I feel like I've been sitting here for ages. Leon was frustrated. A Bai Luo supporter, he would always support his elder brother's words. Isn't Earl of Thorns going to give me trouble? We've settled it privately. I see. Leon had originally considered adding a bit of drama, perhaps a fight with Earl of Thorns here. Whether or not he could win was one thing, but whether or not to fight was a matter of attitude. Since Bai Luo had already settled the matter privately, Leon admittedly felt a little regretful, but the boss was the boss after all. If you're bored, you can come with me to that world and be a referee. Bai Luo said this, primarily out of laziness. After all, after witnessing the example of a miracle battle, the next step would be the tedious oversight, and Bai Luo didn't have the patience for that. I think Maya might be more suitable. Leon immediately said he was busy building the ancient capital and couldn't get away. You brat, Bai Luo scoffed, then shook his head and returned to the meeting. The next thing is King Aole from the Kingdom of Mountains, who is asking. The elector was reading the proposal on the scroll when he suddenly paused and said, "Sorry, I misread it. Let's skip this for now." Elector, what's wrong with you? Dong Aole stood up in dissatisfaction, and at the same time, he pressed down hard on the head of the divine beast lying on the table with both hands. The two little guys were trembling, which made the corpse bride and Feng feel very distressed. I wrote it clearly. Can't you do it even if you read it? Well, it's not that I can't do it, the elector said with some distress. It's just that your request is a bit unbelievable. King Aole asked. The elector opened the parchment scroll and looked up at the direction of the Far North Empire. A request for a duel with the Far North Queen. Puff cough cough cough. The white-haired king of mountains spat out a mouthful of tea, and at the same time, he covered his heart, almost fainting from fright. Brother, calm down. Don't get angry. Take a deep breath. Let's take a deep breath. The Sky King hurriedly helped the Mountain King to catch his breath, while simultaneously pulling King Aole aside. Aole, stop it. Look how scared you are. I just want to challenge the Far North Queen in a duel. King Aole, unfazed, openly challenged the Far North Queen. I've been putting up with you for so long. Silly Rhea, it's Saria. The Far North Queen ignored King Aole. Why are you so arrogant? You defeated opponent, idiot. Aole, can we stop this? The fat old fool chimed in. Can you beat her? Ho 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 ho. The Lords of Miracles, especially the more experienced ones, had long since grown accustomed to Dong Aole's endless attempts to provoke IGE Saria. But no matter how many times, they found it amusing. Dong Aole was powerful, a top-tier powerhouse at the 4th Awakening Realm, but the Far North Queen had already surpassed the 5th Awakening Realm, reaching the 6th Awakening Realm. With such strength, she could defeat 3 of Dong Aole, let alone 1, and crush them. Let's skip the topic, the elector said. Next, it's the proposal of Shizuiyu, Zengayu's newly crowned miracle master. King Aole's absurdity had come to an end, but Bai Luo was rather curious about Shizuiyu's situation. She must be treated well in Zengayu. As a very young miracle master, no matter what she encountered, she would always have the support of the other 7 of the 8 kings of Zengai. Could someone like Shizuiyu also have troubles? Regarding the issue of dimensional creatures, the elector carefully read the contents of the parchment scroll. It's quite complicated, but I think it's indeed worth discussing. Seniors, Shizuiyu said, rising. Dimensional creatures are everywhere in the miracle world. Their numbers are vast, almost endless, but if I may be frank, some of these dimensional creatures are quite overconfident. Shizuiyu recounted her experiences to the others. It was a material plane she was developing, where the people lived a very happy life. However, the dimensional creatures suddenly attacked that plane, causing a devastating impact. I sent people to negotiate with them, hoping they would evacuate my world, but despite my friendly approach, the dimensional creatures not only refused to accept, but attack my people, and their violence has intensified, becoming increasingly excessive. My forces are limited to begin with, so how can we defeat them? I have no choice but to go there myself. Shizuiyu's strength aside, she absolutely overpowers the dimensional creatures. Even the most powerful dimensional masters would be slaughtered by her if they encountered her. But the problem is, they won't fight her at all. The dimensional creatures have battled the people of miracles for so many years, and they are acutely aware of the power of miracles. Upon discovering Shizuiyu, who possesses limitless miracle power, they wouldn't fight her, they would flee immediately. The miracle world is vast, Shizuiyu is alone, and her people are not numerous enough. How can they capture her? How can they find her? How disgusting. Shi Xiaoyu approached the other Starry Night Kings, who were also willing to help her. Although it's a bit rude for a newcomer like me to bring this up, I still feel that you, the elders, are being too indulgent. In today's miracle world, the miracle kings directly control less than 1% of the territory. In contrast, the dimensional creatures control over 70% of the world, practically dominating the entire world. Is this because the Lord of Miracles is weak? Of course not. It's simply because the dimensional creatures are too numerous and so adept at hiding, making it difficult for the Lord of Miracles to completely eliminate them. This topic comes up in almost every meeting. It's not the first time. The elector was a veteran, well aware that the dimensional creatures were like bacteria parasitizing the bodies of the miracle people. But this time, they were indeed a bit too bold. No matter how new Shi Xiaoyu was, she was still a miracle lord, a king whom they regarded as their own kind and compatriot. When dimensional creatures provoked her, it was no longer just Shi Xiaoyu's problem. If they can allow such things, then in the future, won't some dimensional creatures be able to provoke them and destroy their material plane? Dimensional creatures. Bai Luo listened to the discussions of the kings, and it seemed that everyone had a bad opinion of dimensional creatures. The head is determined by the butt, and Bai Luo is now also the Lord of Miracles, so he must be thinking from the perspective of Shi Xiaoyu and others. Imagine that Bai Luo discovered a modern city in the future, and he planted a flag there, indicating that it was the territory of Atón. The kings all agreed with this matter, and it was internationally recognized. Unfortunately, some dimensional creatures, without knowing the consequences, raided Bai Luo's territory and looted a large number of mortal souls. This kind of thing should not have started. Bai Luo immediately expressed his attitude. I think we should launch an anti-bandit operation to suppress the arrogance of dimensional creatures. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 392 Master of the World. Bai Luo wasn't being casual. With the current strength of the Principality of Atón, it was already well positioned for top-tier combat. Bai Luo, his uncle, and Qingquan were all at least at the 4th awakening level. After Ali's recovery, he could even battle a 5th awakening miracle lord in a one-on-one confrontation. To defeat Atón on his own, only a 6th awakening superpower like the Eastern Empress could possibly do so. However, Bai Luo also had Yingmu Ian. Even if the Far North Empress herself arrived, she and the Eastern Empress would be evenly matched. Therefore, as long as the out-of-character forces like Fat Old Man, the Eastern Expedition Emperor, or the Ancient Great Emperor took action, Bai Luo wouldn't fear any force. But that wasn't the point. It was precisely because of this fear of out-of-character forces that the binding force of the Sacred Covenant was so strong, and no one dared to question its authority. You want to enhance the strength of the Kingdom of Miracles, Yingmu Ian guessed Bai Luo's thoughts. She wanted to say she had ample resources and population, but the thought of the Eastern Empire's scoundrels gave her a headache. It's truly frustrating to be such a wealthy woman, yet unable to pass on her entire fortune to the one she loves. I guess I have to find a way to help him, Yingmu sighed helplessly. Otherwise, my role as a sister would be a complete waste. A strong woman like Yingmu hates being treated like a mere decoration. This crosses her line, and she can't accept it no matter what. Is Lord Atón interested? The corpse bride immediately raised her hand, then Adnian, that's not even close, old woman, Feng Du said with a playful laugh. Lord Atón only made a suggestion. If few people participate, he might not necessarily commit. Of course, if he does, then Adnian. Bai Luo was somewhat surprised to see Feng Du express his willingness to join, for he sensed goodwill in him. I see that not everyone in the Eastern Empire is against me. Bai Luo had heard Yingmu talk about Feng Du and Zhu Taichu. They were both miracle lords she had personally nurtured, their relationship similar to that between Bai Luo, Lian, and Maya. The only difference was that they were independent, not subordinate to Yingmu. Of course, because of this incident, the two had known Yingmu's identity for a long time. After all, they were once Yingmu's miracle children. But when they received their miracles, not only did they not belong to Yingmu, but they also terminated their miracle contracts with her. This was simply unbelievable. If any other miracle creature had their most important secret exposed, they would have surely murdered the two, and Ying Mulian at that time would have been able to kill them instantly before they could react. However, Ying Mulian did not do so. She revealed the truth to them, protected them, and helped them become powerful miracle lords. Feng Du was a four-awakening powerhouse, possessing a mid-level miracle. He also controlled the reincarnation of the Eastern Empire, the life and death of all miracle-born and mortal beings. The extent of this power was almost unimaginable. Because the Eastern Empire's mortals extend far beyond the northern reaches of the miracle continent, it encompasses the entire miracle world, encompassing countless material planes. The sheer number of souls within is astronomical. If the Eastern Empire's power and prestige were stratified, even the former Eastern Empress, even gravely injured, would have been grateful to Feng Du and Zhu Teichu for their support. Even if she were merely injured, they would have risked their lives to protect her. Zhu Teichu controls a vast array of rare and exotic beasts throughout the Eastern Empire. Besides the King of Penglai, he rules over numerous primitive planes devoid of human civilization. Feng Du, needless to say, has influence across all the planes under the Eastern Empire's control. Despite his youth, he's already a powerful overlord. If Feng Du were to die, the entire Eastern Empire's circulatory system would collapse, a costly one indeed. Can I join, Lord Atón? I don't dare to make the final decision, Bai Luo said. I'm just making a suggestion, not the initiator. Ultimately, it's up to the decision of who will lead this crusade. This wasn't the first time the dimensional creatures had disregarded the Lord of Miracles. Although Bai Luo was the initiator, it was clear that many of the Lords of Miracles present strongly supported his proposal. I support this action. King Aole and Bai Luo were in their honeymoon phase, a true ally. I agree, Queen Kane said, followed by King Kun and Ali. Bai Luo was most surprised by Earl Thorn. My strength is limited, but I'm willing to let those miracle creatures recognize their true identity. Earl Thorn participated in the event, firstly because he was truly annoyed by the dimensional creatures, and secondly because he wanted to cultivate a good relationship with Bai Luo and avoid further hostility. Some might consider him cowardly, but Earl Thorn was known for his cowardice. To protect his children, Earl Thorn would pay any price. Not to mention what the prophets, including Yan Zhi, had said before. The flaming cross sword, that thing actually in Bai Luo's hands, terrified Earl Thorn. Only a fool would be an enemy of Bai Luo, truly hoping to make his fate come true. As for Li Zhu Shamxianzhai, he was killed by Leon, his soul shattered, but that didn't mean he was completely gone. Earl Thorn had to survive, because only by living could he find his family and tell them in person that his sacrifice had not been in vain. Most importantly, Bai Luo gave Earl Thorn a sense of fellowship. On the other hand, if Bai Luo was a madman like the Lord of the White Birch Tree, then Earl Thorn would have protected the children to the death and would have been extremely wary of them. If you're determined, do it thoroughly, Fat Old Man said in a cold voice. Dimensional creatures feed on our flesh and blood, yet they, in turn, propagate their heresies in the material plane. We didn't care before, not because we weren't able to, but because we simply didn't care. But this isn't the first time. At every meeting, Fat Old Man would hear a newly appointed miracle lord bring up this matter and ask him what to do. But each time, the lack of sufficient miracle lords prevented him from giving a definitive answer. After all, with so many dimensions, how could you be sure they wouldn't harm innocent people if they took action? Destroying someone else's captive dimension would be tantamount to declaring war. This time, there are over 100 miracle lords present, Fat Old Man said. 2/3 of the world's kings are here, and the rest can be notified, just like the southern continent, although only 7 kings were present. They represented the southern continent. The Eastern Expedition Emperor could represent the southern continent, Ying Muian could represent the Eastern Empire, and Fat Old Man and his companions could represent the new miracle continent. The only remaining ancient empire had only sent a representative. But they knew the ancient emperor's character well. This would only benefit the alliance of kings, not harm them, and he would surely agree. With that, all the miracle lords of the world were informed and made aware of the situation. When you return, tell everyone to mark the dimensions they need to protect and report them, said Fat Old Fool. Then notify all dimensions and planes worldwide. It's time to let them know who is the master of this world. Chapter 393 7 Crown Emperor. It's over. There were still many things to do after the meeting, but most of them concerned resources and territory. The Duchy of Atón currently possessed nothing, so Bai Luo didn't need to compete with others for anything. A single-dimensional war was more than enough for Atón to digest, Bai Luo's appetite for more was simply too small. Atón was still at a point where it needed the might of a great power to survive, and it lacked a capital for arrogance. Let's go back. After a few days of fun in the holy city, Bai Luo returned to Atón with his uncle, senior sister, Leon, and the others. Empress Dong couldn't follow Bai Luo, and the Qingquan family was too large, requiring more time to move. She also had several dimensions and planes that needed her subjects, Bai Luo's subjects, to register and report. Ali's situation was simpler. 200,000 Huxia people had successfully arrived in Atón under the protection of the four gods. However, Bai Luo needed to carefully consider how to arrange their affairs, and couldn't just do it half-heartedly. Surely, you should also tag those dimensions. Yes, Master, Bai Luo informed his Pegasus, surely, and instructed her to tell the Pegasus clan leaders, including Unicorn, Octopus, and Nightmare, to search for as many dimensions as possible. Regardless of whether they could conquer them or not, they had to stake their claim. Claiming meant declaring it theirs, and then having official authority endorse it. As long as the great emperors acknowledged Bai Luo's territory, he would have a legitimate claim, and no one could challenge him. Of course, there was the possibility of conflict. Whether the dimensions the Pegasus had marked already belonged to other miracle lords was something that had to be considered. I hope they're unrelated to others, blank dimensions, Bai Luo replied, otherwise, a fight with the other kings would only do more harm than good. Blank dimensions were those uninvolved by miracle lords, more suitable for the current Atón. Bai Luo was confident in simply conquering a dimension. Saint Dragon Princess was formidable. While the Bai Luo clan lacked legendary combatants, they had the four gods of Huxia and the Lu Wei family. Before them, dimension lords were nothing, they were to be killed as many as came. Is the capture rate of dimension lords high? Bai Luo naturally had no intention of killing dimension lords. No matter what they did, as long as it didn't harm the Atón people, it was none of Bai Luo's business. Bai Luo truly desired those dimensional creatures he could capture and make his own. While the legendaries he cultivated himself might have higher aptitude, dimension lords and dimensional creatures were already readily available combat power. Capturing them for military service would undoubtedly be faster than Bai Luo could train them. The only problem was their limited aptitude, making it difficult to break through to the epic realm. It was a case of giving and taking. That girl Feya, did you really let her go? Yes, Bai Luo acquiesced to his senior sister's actions, sending her undercover in the trading house. However, Bai Luo also had a condition: his senior sister had to return every once in a while. As for what she would do, that was something any man would know. Bai Luo was no idiot, he acted solely to suppress the queen's will. His senior sister was aware of this and knew how to handle it. If she detected any signs of him drifting, she would immediately return to Bai Luo's side and offer healing. In the absence of a better solution, even if it's only a temporary fix, it might be a good solution. The trading house was hidden behind the scenes, and Bai Luo had no idea when it would strike, so his senior sister's undercover work was crucial to him. Fortunately, his senior sister wasn't just going to be a subordinate, she was the highest leader of the trading house, higher in status than even Du Muon. Otherwise, Bai Luo wouldn't have let his woman go to such a dangerous place, even if he was killed. Queen, Du Muon walked respectfully behind his senior sister. What's wrong with you? Are you okay? What can happen to me, little Du Muon? Senior sister's acting skills are the best in the world, and she can perfectly interpret Isiphia's temperament and posture. I asked you to notify them. Are they all here? As you requested, I sent the notice to all members of the trading house. Du Muon didn't care about his senior sister's personality. As long as she was the queen he should serve. They are already waiting for you outside the hall, but forgive me for being frank, Du Muon, I don't think they are qualified to see you. I don't plan to see everyone, senior sister said indifferently. You notify the seven-crowned emperor to come see me. Oh, and that old man, I haven't seen him for a long time. At the same time, in the trading house, almost like the meeting of kings, a large number of traders gathered here, waiting for the arrival of the queen. According to that person's request, the meeting of kings has concluded. In the end, nothing happened? How boring. Dusk, how powerful is the legendary supreme miracle? The traders concealed their identities beneath their hooded garments. These garments themselves had no function, but each miracle master wielded infinite power to shield them from prying eyes. A miracle master could detect the truth and falsehood of anyone, but detection was one thing, seeing through it was another. Just as Bai Luo could tell someone was deceiving him, But why was they deceiving them, and what the truth was, not even a miracle master could discern. Kings confronted kings, and no detective skills were effective. The only thing left to rely on was their own judgment. House Luo, the Queen of Heaven, also among the traitors, folded her arms in dissatisfaction. How much longer do I have to wait? We were supposed to see the Queen this time, but why hadn't she appeared yet? Has the Queen finally appeared? That legendary figure, if it truly existed, would be the best proof of the myth's authenticity. Led by the Elector Du Moon, the figure her senior sister called the Seven-Crowned Emperor arrived in a beautiful, otherworldly garden. Avalon, one of them, was stunned for a moment, clearly unprepared for such a situation. Then, looking at the woman in white sitting in the garden sipping afternoon tea, he guessed her identity. No way, could it be? Nothing to be surprised about. Teichu. The voice sounded strangely familiar to senior sister. Although she had invited the Seven Crowned Emperors, the Seven Crowned Emperors were merely a title, referring to the 7 most powerful members of the trading house. As for who these 7 were, the Queen surely knew, but senior sister, she had not received all of the Queen's wisdom and was far from omniscience. Oh, senior sister recalled the voice's owner. It's the one from the Eastern Empire. This is truly astonishing. Zhu Teichu narrowed his eyes slightly, a cocky smile on his face. I never thought such a great person would hide beside a newly rising miracle master. Chapter 394. A group of traitors. It's the little fellow accompanying the Eastern Empress. Senior sister appeared indifferent, but inwardly she was a little surprised. According to the message Ying Muiyan had sent Bai Luo, she seemed to consider Zhu Teichu a close confidant. But what was going on now? Another traitor? Speak with respect, Zhu Teichu. Du Moon was deeply dissatisfied with Zhu Teichu's attitude. As the weakest of the 7 crowned emperors, he dared to act so impertinently in front of his queen. Did he think he, Du Moon, was already dead? I just have a question, Zhu Teichu said, completely ignoring the others' attitudes and stepping forward. Didn't we agree that if I join, I can meet the legendary great philosopher and get the answers from him? If it was the real Isophilia here, she would definitely be able to answer Zhu Teichu's question. Unfortunately, senior sister was an imposter. She was just an actress, not the real Isophilia. But at that moment, Zhu Teichu stopped, turned around, and a playful smile crossed his face. Murderous intent, and more than one. At least 4 of the 7 crowned emperors unleashed terrifying miraculous powers, locking onto him. Zhu Teichu had no doubt that if he took one more step forward, this would be his final resting place. You've gone too far, Zhu Teichu. He removed his hood, revealing a figure whose identity astonished even the senior sisters, the great emperor of the far north. Before he told Excelia what had happened, the great emperor of the far north had already contacted the trading house and joined it, becoming a member of its organization. Furthermore, the 7 crowned emperors served as the trading house's equivalent of the Council of Elders, clearly holding considerable influence within it. It's not you, great emperor of the far north, Zhu Teichu said without reply. Instead, he glanced past him and said, it's not you, Du Moon either. Both the men were far more powerful than him, yet they had no intention of killing him. But just then, Zhu Teichu clearly sensed the imminence of death, a true death from which Shiva's infinite miraculous power could not save him. Is that you? Zhu Teichu looked at the old man standing at the back of the group. It was him who had just made Zhu Teichu feel like he was falling into an icy cave. You should thank me, little one. He leaned on a cane, his hair white, his face wrinkled with wrinkles. His narrowed eyes didn't stare at Zhu Teichu, but the latter's heart raced, bracing himself for his attack. Don't worry, I have no intention of making an enemy of you, but young man, please be polite. With that, the old man smiled and approached senior sister. It's strange. What's wrong with you? Why have you changed so much? If it were the old you before, the old man glanced back at Zhu Teichu. He shouldn't still be alive. People always change, old man. Senior sister sat in the courtyard, crossing her legs like the queen, and resting her hands on her knees. She didn't know who the old man before her was, but through the queen's remaining memories, senior sister noticed the respect Isophilia had for him. He's very strong, much stronger than anyone in the 7 crowns. It doesn't matter, the old man sighed. Whatever happens, as long as you're the one making the decision. With that, the old man walked to stand behind the queen, like an incredibly powerful guardian, ensuring that no one could touch her. What's going on now? Another person removed his hood. It was the emperor of the Eastern Expedition, who had previously helped Bai Luo at the Council of Kings. A family gathering, Du, me, the far north kid, the emperor of the Eastern Expedition looked at the old man. And you, brother? I never thought we could get together like this. It's truly not easy. What these people said was beyond senior sister's knowledge. The queen had no memory of this. Don't lump me in with them, two seniors. The great emperor of the northern expedition shrugged, indicating that he didn't want to join the gathering of two elderly people. I'm much younger than you, really, Du. Don't try to be so close, Du said. Since you've been awake for a long time, why are you here now? Or do you still think Yajin is that important, Yajin? This was the first time senior sister had heard this name, but she wasn't sure if it referred to a person, an object, a place, or an organization. Bai Luo hadn't told senior sister about Yajin's existence, or rather, he couldn't mention the fact that he had met Yajin to anyone. Furthermore, senior sister clearly noticed that when Du mentioned this name, the unknown old man, the Eastern Expedition Emperor, and the Northernmost Emperor all became wary of something. You are too arrogant, Du. The face of the great Emperor of Rebirth was a little bad, and he frowned deeply. Who gave you the courage to call that person's name directly? Are you scared? Du and Rebirth were old acquaintances, but at this moment, they seemed to have some kind of contradiction that senior sister was not aware of. Yes, of course you are afraid. After all, she is here. Enough. Du. The Emperor of Dongzhang suddenly spoke, which made Du swallow back what he wanted to say, but he was still very dissatisfied. Can't you even say it? You are afraid of her, but I am not, Yajin. Emperor Sui muttered this word, and he smiled. It seems that the legend is true. She is indeed the source of miracles, the source of miracles. Senior sister remained calm, but her heart was in turmoil. Has the trading house studied miracles to such a profound level? Even the source of miracles has been figured out? 7 crowned emperors. Senior sister has already figured out the identities of 4 individuals. Zhu Teichu, the supreme miracle lord of the Eastern Empire, the emperor of the far north empire, the southern continent's supreme leader, Emperor Dongzhang, and Du, who has transformed into an electoral candidate. In addition, there's Emperor Sui, whose appearance she saw but whose origins she didn't know, and an elderly man of unknown identity besides the 7 crowned emperors. With this, senior sister has a good understanding of most of the top leadership of the trading house, save for the 2 who had remained silent since entering. However, this also shocked senior sister, as almost all 7 people present wielded the power of a supreme miracle. While the far north emperor wasn't a supreme miracle lord, his sister was the most powerful being on the miracle continent. Unfortunately, the last 2 remained silent and refused to remove their hoods, making it impossible for senior sister to determine their identities. I summoned you here for 2 main reasons. Senior sister's tone suddenly changed, becoming more confident and casual. First, there's Saros. No one can be his enemy. Chapter 395 The weakest of the 7 crowns. Senior sister felt this moment was incredibly strange, like a previously muddled mind suddenly becoming incredibly clear, and previously confusing things suddenly became clear. She quickly realized that this was the queen's wisdom. Are you helping me? No, she couldn't be asked to help herself. Senior sister and the queen were the same person, which meant their abilities were completely interlinked, the only difference being their strengths. Senior sister couldn't compare to the queen's, but she wasn't bad either. With such a powerful weapon in hand, it would be strange if she couldn't even handle the person before her. Saros, that man, it's not an exaggeration to say he's a true miracle. The 2 7-crown emperors, hidden under their hoods, praised him highly, while Du and the others remained silent for a long time, a sign of their agreement. Is it my ignorance, or what? Zhu Teichu asked. Is he that powerful? Having lived for thousands of years, Zhu Teichu had seen all kinds of people, including countless powerful ones. But in his opinion, while Saros was certainly excellent, he wasn't so powerful that he would intimidate everyone present, right? Kid, a piece of advice for you, the Eastern Expedition Emperor said. If you can avoid provoking him, do so. You won't win. When Saros gets serious, there's no way he'll lose. Otherwise, why was the Council of Kings so perfunctory regarding Bai Luo and Wang Hun's attitude? The fundamental reason lies with the old uncle alone. While the less experienced kings only saw the old uncle's excellence, the truly powerful lords of miracles understood the significance of the power he displayed. That man possesses the power to cause a group of lords of miracles to break through with just a few words. The most famous example is the female sword emperor, who had only just reached the fourth awakening, yet in just a few decades, she had grown to her current level. Are you talking about the Sword Queen? Wasn't that an accident? Zhu Teichu was reluctant to acknowledge Salos's abilities, but the Far North Emperor shook his head. The Sword Queen's talent is arguably the worst among all the upper miracle lords, but Salos has played an invaluable role in her advancement. It wasn't that the Sword Queen was truly incompetent, but rather that she completely misunderstood the concept of 49 heavenly transformations. Simply put, she was a science whiz, yet she was asked to write poetry, sing, and dance. Who could stand that? There are 50 great deos, and 49 heavenly transformations. It's a complex theoretical system, difficult for even the average person to even begin to grasp, let alone comprehend. The Sword Queen was no exception, struggling for thousands of years before barely breaking through to the fourth awakening. As for the fifth awakening, she couldn't even see the threshold. The Eastern and Northern Empresses had both offered the same assessment. The Sword Queen would likely remain at the fourth awakening for the rest of her life. My judgment has always been accurate, said the great emperor of the far north. But even I didn't expect someone to break this fate and single-handedly create a five senses expert. Even Zhu Teichu, the last of the seven crowned emperors, hadn't achieved the five senses. That's truly impressive. Zhu Teichu smiled arrogantly, acknowledging Saros's prowess. Everyone who obtains a higher level miracle encounters a bottleneck. The female sword emperor couldn't understand it, Zhu Teichu couldn't accept it, and the others each had their own problems. The fact that my uncle could lead the female sword emperor was truly remarkable. More than that, Du Muin said. Back then, I wanted to destroy the Qingquan kingdom and take over Qingquan, but this man saved an entire nation, especially seeing him again this time. Judging by Qingquan's reaction, I'm sure he's already conquered her. Can the Lord of Miracles be subjugated? Zhu Teichu didn't know this secret, he had never heard of it. The conditions are harsh, but not impossible, said the Eastern Expedition Emperor. It's just that he did it so easily. Yes, it was indeed so easy, Du Muin said. Over millions of years, I have witnessed tens of thousands of miracle lords. Many, driven to despair, were saved by someone and then transformed into miraculous creatures to repay their kindness. When a miracle lord loses everything, has no more worries, and wishes death, he or she will initiate a miracle quest. In other words, the miracle lord has effectively become a masterless miracle. Saving him or her becomes the task of someone. This person can be a mortal or a miracle lord. In short, if you succeed and give him or her the courage to live, you will naturally gain everything he or she has. Of course, as I said before, this miracle lord's miracle cannot be a miracle creature. Because a miracle lord with a miracle creature is complete and will never give up. But Salos has been connected with too many lords of miracles. Du Muin looked at his senior sister. As far as I know, there is only one person in the world who has the ability to do such a thing. Ashen, the senior sister blurted out almost instinctively, and as soon as the words came out, she suddenly realized, could it be that my father is really? So what exactly is Ashen? A person? Is this Salos the reincarnation of that Ashen? Ha ha ha. Perhaps Zhu Teichu was too ignorant. Di Sui laughed and said, you are really interesting, kid. How did you get in here? How come you don't even know Ashen? Boom. The king's power surged, and Zhu Teichu's face looked very ugly, but Di Sui didn't care. That's why I said that the young people nowadays are really no good. Calm down, little brother Teichu. The great emperor of the extreme north pressed Zhu Teichu's shoulders to stop him from making a move. If you knew his identity, you wouldn't want to fight him. That's not necessarily true, heavenly man. Di Sui's address made the great emperor of the extreme north frown, as if he didn't like him calling himself heavenly man. Based on his knowledge, he probably hasn't even heard of my name. I don't kill nameless people. Zhu Teichu calmed down. He had realized the meaning of the great emperor of the extreme north's actions. The other party was a strong man, a very, very strong one. Tell me your name, Di Sui. With just 2 words, Zhu Teichu's fury instantly dissipated, replaced by shock and disbelief. How is that possible? You should have already. You've already died, right? Emperor Sui didn't care. I should be thanking Ying Mulyan. Without her, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today. Huh? The next moment, even though Emperor Sui hadn't done anything, Zhu Teichu felt an unimaginable, immense, and powerful aura surging from him. No, it wasn't just immense. It was crushing, A crushing force that would make anyone despair. Chapter 396, No Secrets in Front of the Queen. Is this the legendary power? Zhu Teichu was thrilled. A combative warrior who reveled in challenging the strongest, how could he not be filled with passion when confronted by a supreme power like Di Sui? Stop, Di Sui, his senior sister spoke. Though her tone was gentle, the undeniable determination in her words was remarkably clear. Sorry, I got carried away. Di Sui spread his hands. He was no longer the emperor of the northern continent, now he was merely a loser overthrown by Yingmu Ian. Asian isn't a person, it's a word, Sophia explained. You can understand it as wisdom, a legend, ancient and enduring, circulated in the miracle world, spoke of the wisdom of Asians reappearing and ushering in a great hero. Of course, this was merely myth, a prophecy uttered by many miracle lords, no different from the predictions of some foolish prophet. But those present were all at the pinnacle of the world, so they knew full well that Asian wasn't just a legend, it truly existed. Hey, woman, compared to Di Sui's calmness, Zhu Teichu seemed very unhappy. He looked directly at his senior sister. You have been giving orders since just now. Why? Are you strong? Stronger than them, maybe, but this doesn't seem to have anything to do with my ability to give orders, right, senior sister? No. Sophia stood up from the throne and walked in front of Zhu Teichu. I can stand here only because I can give you the answers you want. How? Zhu Teichu sneered. Then tell me, what do I want to know? Since you are omnipotent and omniscient, you should know what I want to ask. Zhu Teichu, you are still the omnipotent and omniscient queen. Do you need me to explain it carefully and then give you some time to think? Arrogant brat, if it were before, Du Muin would have definitely taken action. However, at this moment, Du Muin was unexpectedly calm, because he could feel that his queen had returned. Honestly, your question is quite unusual. Even I find it quite peculiar. How should I put it? Sophia placed a finger on her forehead, a look of distressed amusement on her face. I've always thought that those who make it this far are confident adults, or at least mature, but what's wrong with you? Sophia smiled. Falling in love with someone you shouldn't be, little kid? How adorable, you? Zhu Teichu was instantly enraged. But before he could strike, a finger gently touched his brow. At that moment, the powerful miraculous power vanished, and Zhu Teichu's mind went blank. When he realized what was happening, he found himself slumped to the ground. This is, Zhu Teichu looked up to see Sophia looking down at him. There was no disdain, no ridicule. Simply the simple gesture of an elder looking at a young child. Don't be naughty. If you do, big sister, will punish you. Humiliation. Such humiliation. Yet, for some reason, Zhu Teichu felt no desire to resist, as if Sophia had any right to do so. In front of this woman, he was no different from a toddler. Do you want me to eliminate him, Your Majesty? The old man, who had been standing calmly, asked. Sophia quickly turned around, only to see her smiling and waving her hand. Old man, that's scary, you say. He's just a little guy, but be a better person next time. Sophia leaped over the slumped Zhu Teichu and patted his lush golden hair. Alright, now stand up. I'll answer your question. Stand up? Even then, Zhu Teichu was still limp, unable to even stand. He was a high-ranking miracle lord. Why was this happening? Damn it, Zhu Teichu exerted force again and again, but his legs repeatedly slipped. His movements were ridiculous, and under the gaze of the other 7 crowned emperors, it felt like a public execution. What the hell did you do to me? Zhu Teichu roared in frustration, and then he heard a snap of fingers. The next moment, the 7 crowned emperors vanished, replaced by a desolate ruin, a village, its walls blackened by a fire. This is it. Zhu Teichu knew this place, he would never forget it. How do you know? If you don't know, that's strange, isn't it? Sophia stood beside Zhu Teichu, staring at the ruins ahead with him. Are you still getting up? Do you need a hand? Here, a hand. Seeing Sophia's actions, Zhu Teichu was furious. What does this guy think I am? A dog? Damn it! Filled with intense anger, Zhu Teichu finally climbed to his feet. Almost as a reflex, he raised his fist, ready to strike back. However, Zhu Teichu was stunned, for he couldn't muster the slightest desire to kill the woman before him. How could this happen? What on earth did you do? Zhu Teichu had never faced an opponent like this. His strength had clearly been restored, but every time he tried to mobilize it and strike, his subconscious would demand it back. If his previous weakness was due to his power being sealed, now it was as if he was sealing himself. I didn't do anything. I just wanted you to look into your heart. I gently put down Zutechu's raised hand. You were very happy when I trained you just now, right? What did you say? Just like when you first met Ying Yulian. I ignored the manic Zutechu. It's the same feeling, being saved by an older sister and being a good and obedient child. Zutechu clenched his fists tightly, but he had to admit that the woman in front of him really saw through the most hidden secret in his heart. You like Ying Muan very much, right? Shut up. But it's not the kind of love a man has for a woman, but the kind of love a brother has for a sister, a child has for his mother. Enough. Zutechu was trembling all over. He shouted hysterically, I can handle my own problems. I don't need you to tell me what to do. No, Sophia said, because I have to answer your question. You are a loyal dog, Zutechu. Sophia said, you are loyal, grateful, and brave enough. Moreover, you are willing to repay a small favor with your life. Chapter 397 Kill it. That's not a small favor, Zutechu said in a trembling voice. She saved my life, but you're the master of miracles now. Sophia raised her hand, her index finger and thumb forming a small distance. Such a small favor should have been repaid long ago. Do you really intend to trade everything you have for such a small thing, huh? Zutechu had thought the queen had some brilliant idea, but it turned out to be just that. Then you misjudged me. Zutechu, am willing to trade. Clap, clap, clap. Sophia clapped rapidly. Awesome, really amazing. I can't help but give you a red flower. Are you insulting me? Zutechu had already realized the gap between him and Sophia. It would take only a snap of a finger for her to kill him. But he wasn't afraid of death. Rather than being humiliated and having his lifelong perseverance questioned, he preferred to fight her. At least that way, he could preserve his last bit of dignity. No, I'm being honest, Sophia said. I don't doubt your true nature, and I believe you're an excellent child, but isn't that what bothers you most? A stoic, yet such a miracle happened to me, Sophia said. Oh, I hate it. If only my miracle were normal. Even if it were a lower-tier miracle, with my talent and ability, I could still stand at the top of the world. You think that all the time, don't you? Zutechu had completely given up trying. Sophia could see through his every thought. He had no privacy in her presence. To solve this problem, you joined the trading house, and after hearing about me, you devoted all your energy to the organization. That's how you became the last of the 7 crowns and had the opportunity to meet me firsthand. What a talented, hard-working child. I can't help but cheer you on. Sophia's personality was the complete opposite of her senior sister's. She was always smiling, yet she could use that expression to rub salt into someone's wounds, and she did it with a smile. Zutechu had no doubt that if there had been background music, she would have been singing and sprinkling salt at the same time. What a wicked woman. Zutechu's problem was simple. What should he do if his instincts urged him to possess a certain woman, but his will and ego resisted it? That woman was none other than the Eastern Empress Ying Muang, his most respected benefactor. Zutechu had no inappropriate desires for Ying Muang. But his miracle was incredibly strange, arguably the greatest stud in the entire miracle world. This power existed for a single purpose, to seed all things, allowing them to bear offspring, perpetuate their bloodline, and strengthen their race. Superior miracle creature, the first cause of the atlas of all life. The first cause isn't a concrete living thing, but rather the instinct for evolution, the ultimate driving force behind the transformation of all living things from simple to complex, from incomplete to complete. Zutechu hated his miracle because it forced him to become a pile-driving bulldozer. This was why Zutechu had remained an ascetic for so many years. He ate only whole grains, not refined food. He wore no fancy clothes, nor pursued any extravagance. Furthermore, he resolutely abstained from sexual relations with any woman, achieving a state of unperturbed composure, a state where everything seemed as fleeting as a passing cloud. For this reason, Zutechu frequently sought spiritual training with the awakened one, seeking inner peace. The first cause, the original foundation of the atlas of all beings, Sophia said. It's always hard for you to see Ying Mulian, isn't it? Your body, your cells, your genes, your soul, and even that boundless miraculous power, they all whisper in your ear, get her, possess her, make her yours. The one emperor of all ages was undoubtedly the most noble being in the world, and how could the first cause possibly resist her? Only by conquering the one emperor of all ages, fertilizing her, and having her bear him offspring. That was the first cause's ultimate achievement. and Zhu Teichu had never felt this way before or anyone else. Whether it was the female sort emperor, the awakened one to the west, or Isophilia before him, the first cause showed no reaction. Only Ying Mulian, only she, was special. You've said so much, but in the end, nothing's been resolved. Zhu Teichu, I came to you because I wanted you to help me eliminate the side effects of the first cause. If you're really that powerful, then help me solve it, just defeat it. Wouldn't that be enough? What? Zhu Teichu was stunned. He didn't understand what Isophilia meant. Defeat who? Of course, the supreme miracle you possess, the first cause, Isophilia casually said. Little boy, imagine this, a bad guy wants to bully Ying Luoyang. He's a scumbag, and then, shut up. Zhu Teichu's intense anger was unbearable. In his mind, the Eastern Empress was sacred and noble, and he would not tolerate anyone desecrating her. Really? You feel it too, Isophilia said. This hysterical anger, you crazy woman. Zhu Teichu didn't forbid Ying Luoyang from falling in love with another man. If it was a good man, like Bai Luo, Zhu Teichu would sincerely bless them. But Isophia's explanation was like smearing disgusting slime on a pure white wedding dress, depriving it of its purity. This was precisely the fundamental reason why Zhu Teichu hated the first cause. The first cause's possessiveness lacked love, it was simply a mad beast, a complete scumbag. You always thought that the only way to gain the power of the first cause was to become one with him, Isophia said. But, while there's only one destination, there's more than one path to it. Stand up, hold your head high. You don't look worthy of this tall, imposing figure. Isophia's voice lost its playful tone and became serious. Before, I saw you like a little boy trembling as he watched his sister being raped by the intruders. It's embarrassing, isn't it? When you recall this someday, Isophia looked Zhu Teichu in the eye. You'll regret it. The knife's in the kitchen. Isophia's tone grew colder. Even you could kill with all your might. Kill him. At that moment, Zhu Teichu's hands trembled slightly. He had once utterly feared the first cause's power, believing it to be his instinct and subconscious. But it wasn't, and it wasn't worthy of being a part of him. Kill it, destroy it, control it, instead of just hiding in the corner, trembling and watching it do whatever it wants. Chapter 398 The Strongest Creature. Cracks appeared in the invisible doorway, spreading until, with a resounding bang, they collapsed. Breakthrough. The seven-crowned emperors stared in astonishment at Zhu Teichu's drastically changed demeanor. They only saw Isophilia tap her finger between his brows. But the next moment, Zhu Teichu had actually broken through, inexplicably. Yes, that's it. Isophilia clasped her hands behind her back and gracefully retreated. She smiled. You've grown into a good man, little one. If Zhu Teichu had previously simply borrowed power from a higher-level miracle, now, he had personally shattered the gates set by the first cause, dragged the miracle's true form out, and bit it on the neck. Now, can you tell me your true feelings, without the first cause's influence? Isophia asked Zhu Teichu what his feelings were for Ying Luoyang. Did he like her? Did he want her? No, Zhu Teichu had been perplexed by this. Did he truly love the Eastern Empress? Because of the first cause's existence, he couldn't face his own heart. Now, with the first cause's influence gone, Zhu Teichu could finally answer this question with dignity. His feelings for Ying Luoyang were only familial, not romantic. Isophia was right, it was the first cause that sought to possess the Eastern Empress. And Zhu Teichu had nearly become its accomplice. If that had happened, Zhu Teichu would never have forgiven himself, no matter the outcome. But now, Zhu Teichu had successfully mastered the first cause's power, the first cause of the atlas of all living things. This superior miracle represented all living creatures in the world, and Zhu Teichu was the most powerful being at that level, the most powerful being. I cannot repay your great kindness. Zhu Teichu knelt on one knee and respectfully saluted Isophia. You are a true great philosopher. With just a few words, she had solved a puzzle that had puzzled Zhu Teichu for thousands of years. Many might consider such an ability unworthy of the title of great philosopher. But in Zhu Teichu's eyes, Isophia was the great philosopher, and he firmly believed it. All right, once taken care of, Isophia asked Zhu Teichu to stand. Everything she had done so far had been designed to help him understand his true self, and now, Zhu Teichu had not disappointed Isophia, having successfully broken through to the fifth awakening. A Lord of Miracles who had awakened to his fifth level of power could be considered a peak-level warrior. If Emperor Sui had previously easily defeated Zhu Teichu, now, even he would have to put in some effort to defeat this man. I don't have much time, Sophia said, looking at the crowd present. Who's next? An unknown amount of time passed before senior sister felt her sense of omnipotence fade. She hadn't forgotten what the queen had done, she remembered it all. Looking ahead, the seven-crowned emperor saluted respectfully. Of all the people present, only the old man standing by remained unfazed. He had no questions. Senior sister had specifically asked the old man when she was borrowing the queen's power and wisdom, but he hadn't. My problem has been solved, the old man said. Now, I am considering how to repay your kindness, young lady. Help me strike 3 times. This was what the senior sister in the queen's state asked him to do, and the purpose. The senior sister sighed secretly. She found that the side effects of the queen's state were really significant, because in that state, she was not wholeheartedly devoted to Bai Luo. Just like the agreement with the old man, Sophia's target was none other than Bai Luo. What she asked the old man to do was to rescue her from Bai Luo if she was controlled by him. This was not to say that the queen was inferior to the old man in strength. In terms of pure combat power, the old man was naturally no match for the queen, but Bai Luo was the nemesis of the queen and the senior sister. Even if Bai Luo was just a mortal, if he was allowed to get close to Sophia, she would still be defeated. What the hell am I doing? How can you give such an order? Senior sister was deeply troubled. She discovered that even though the queen's will had departed, her wisdom still held a special power, subtly influencing her own judgment. Let's drop the previous request, but senior sister was still senior sister, and even if she changed her mind from day to day, she was determined to disrupt the queen's plans. The old man paused, a little puzzled. Don't you need my help? No, honestly, the old man was curious about what had happened to senior sister. The former queen and the current senior sister were clearly 2 different people. The old man wasn't blind. May I ask why? Why? Senior sister wanted to know why, too. Why had she been such a wicked woman in her previous life, becoming such a huge obstacle to her and Bai Luo's long-term companionship in this life? Because of Atón, senior sister made up an excuse. Since the seven-crowned emperor was so wary of Atón's wisdom, it was only natural for her to direct their attention there. She added, incidentally, that Atón was a universal answer. In the future, whenever she encountered a question her senior sister couldn't answer, she could simply tell the traitors, because of Atón, and she felt they would immediately come up with a natural explanation. I see. As expected, the old man suddenly realized, and the seven-crowned emperors also gave a look of as expected. I was just making it up. Are all the people in the trade house so imaginative? The senior sister pondered, sharing her experiences with the trade house with Bai Luo in detail. The seven-crowned emperor, Bai Luo, had already read the intelligence sent by her senior sister about the principality of Atón. He hadn't expected the trade house to possess such terrifying power. The Eastern Expedition Emperor, the Elector, the Far North Emperor, and Zhu Teichu, they were all members of the trade house. What a terrifying organization! Bai Luo, still terrified, looked at his uncle, who was watching the recordings nearby, and asked, Uncle, what do you think we should do? Let's wait and see. The uncle was calm. He wasn't smoking, which meant the intelligence senior sister had given him wasn't enough to bother him. And isn't that a good thing? A good thing. Unlike Bai Luo, the uncle saw a huge advantage. Think back to the conversation between the queen and Zhu Teichu. Bai Luo was truly baffled by Zhu Teichu. He had assumed he was Ying Mulian's suitor, but after watching, he realized he was nothing but a bootlicker. This left Bai Luo unsure how to deal with him. If Zhu Teichu had coveted Ying Mulian, Bai Luo could have simply beaten him to death. But this man, he was different. Zhu Teichu didn't pursue Ying Mulian relentlessly. He wasn't one of those perverts who, under the pretext of I love her, self-righteously did things that troubled the goddess. This guy is more like a knight. When the empress is fine, he will never appear in front of her and will not interfere with or hinder her life. But when the empress needs him, he will stand up and fight for her at the first time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 399 Observer. Uncle, are you saying that Fia has taken control of the seven crowned emperors? Yes, the uncle nodded. The trading house is an organization, unlike a nation like ours, Atón. Our people were personally trained by you, Xia Oluo, and are considered your subjects. the uncle said. But the trading house is merely an alliance, similar to the Council of Kings. How could an alliance possibly work together? There must be internal divisions and conflicts. Senior sister appropriated Isophia's wisdom and strength, but subconsciously, she still sought to protect Atón and Bai Luo. And now, Isophia had successfully conquered the 7 crowned emperors. She had answered their questions and resolved their grievances. This act of grace, akin to rebirth, earned senior sister their admiration and respect. Apart from anything else, they would certainly comply with any request from the queen. Interestingly, however, senior sister and Isophia were considered the same person in the 7 crowned emperors' eyes. This time, senior sister had borrowed the queen's power to secure 7 extremely high-ranking favors for her. Just like before, when Isophia asked the old man to help her deal with Bai Luo, but senior sister immediately denied it. The old man didn't react much. Because senior sister was Isophia, he accepted whatever they asked. Even if his orders changed from one moment to the next, even if he told him to kill someone one moment and save someone the next. While such things were strange, the 7 crowned emperors would think the queen's wisdom was unfathomable, automatically inventing all sorts of reasons, rather than blaming the queen for anything. She's consciously trying to divide the trading house, the old uncle said. She holds the greatest power, but leaves those below her alone. She's starting to learn how to use the queen's power against her. Senior sister seemed quite immature compared to the queen, but her potential matched hers. Sooner or later, senior sister would rival the queen. But I'm still worried about Fia, Bai Luo sighed. If anything, he didn't want senior sister to go to the trading house. It's not like I won't be back. As she spoke, the senior sister returned to the Principality of Atón through the Avalon Gate. She said to the two, "Have you figured out the 7 crowned emperor's identity? Is it possible these people would even appear in the trading house?" The old uncle said. "I'm truly surprised, especially the Eastern Expedition Emperor, the most powerful prophet in the entire miracle world. How could such a man become a traitor? He's very special," the senior sister said. "Under the Queen's wisdom, I can sense something different about him." The Eastern Expedition Emperor's question was remarkably simple, simply asking the Queen, "Is it right, or wrong?" The Queen replied, "Right now, is that a riddle? You don't even know the answer to the question you're answering." "I don't know," the senior sister shook her head. "The Queen's wisdom only gives me the best possible answers, even creating understandings out of nothing. She understands the Eastern Expedition Emperor, but I don't know what he's asking." There were 2 others whose identities had yet to be revealed. Even the process of questioning the Queen was shrouded in mystery. Looking back, the senior sister felt like she was conversing with 2 shadows, or something eerie. They're probably not human, maybe not even lords of miracles. Senior sister's assessment was that the 2 most mysterious of the 7 crowned emperors were likely 2 ancient miraculous creatures. This hooded garment, and the bodies beneath it, might simply be 2 puppets. "One more thing," senior sister said, looking at uncle. "The 7 crowned emperor mentioned some strange names. The Queen's wisdom didn't give me a direct answer. Father, have you heard of them? Yajin, celestial being, and the wisdom of Ashen." These were the 3 main terms. Senior sister had almost figured out the last one, and was 100% certain that uncle was the owner of the wisdom of Ashen. Yajin, Bai Luo knew that this was a foolish woman who called herself a goddess. "Looks like I need to find time to visit that place again and find out why the 7 crowned emperor is so wary of her." Yes, wary, even terrified of her. Even the Eastern Expedition Emperor and the Far North Emperor didn't dare mention her name casually. Is that idiot really that powerful? Bai Luo couldn't see it at all. He instinctively felt that Yajin was weak, at least she was definitely no match for him. Well, that feeling was just like Bai Luo facing his senior sister. No matter how strong she was, she couldn't defeat him. "I always feel like you're thinking something bad." The senior sister looked at Bai Luo, who quickly said, "How could that be? I'm not, I really am. By the way, the corpse bride invited me to supervise. Are you going, Fia?" "Will there be too many people? You're not judging, just watching, so it shouldn't be a big deal." The dispute between the corpse bride and Fengdu wasn't a big deal to Bai Luo, especially since the supervisors, the Eastern Empress and the Sword Emperor, both had good relationships with Bai Luo. The 3 judges were basically united, and there wouldn't be any disagreements. And since he could guarantee that no one would try to retaliate, it wouldn't matter much for Bai Luo to bring his senior sister along. "I'm not going," the senior sister said. Take little Maya with you. Leon has to guard the ancient capital, and I'll protect Atón while you're gone, okay? Bai Luo's safety wouldn't be a problem on this trip. After all, the Eastern Empress was at his side, and with the addition of the female Sword Emperor, even if the Eastern Expedition Emperor and Emperor Sui arrived in person, they wouldn't be able to face 3 superior-level powerhouses. Maya, Bai Luo informed Maya, and the girl hurried over. Brother Bai Luo, a pale blue light swirled around Maya, and her eyes seemed to reflect the starry sky, brilliant and deep, yet brimming with infinite charm, beckoning exploration. The king of the East Sea invited me. I already know, Brother Bai Luo. Maya was a prophet. Although she couldn't see the Lord of Miracles, the people of miracles couldn't escape her foresight. You're going to a world where the living dead battle exorcists, right? Bai Luo scratched his head. He wasn't used to having a prophet in his family. Have you seen it? Yes, and the result? Can you see the result? Yes, however, Maya didn't intend to tell Bai Luo. It wasn't that she wanted to hide it, but that would be extremely boring. The Lord of Miracles wasn't much fun to begin with. Finally getting a show to watch, and then being spoiled, how could they still be friends? Let's go. My sister should have already left. Bai Luo, by the way, what kind of world are they fighting for? The world the corpse bride was fighting for was similar to the world Yi Feng and the others were fighting for, but it was older. Maya's judgment was probably equivalent to the Republic of China period in Brother Bai Luo's knowledge. Chapter 400 Imperial Mausoleum Underground Palace. The Republic of China. Bai Luo, zombies really do go best with the Republic of China. Oh, and there are also Maotian Taoists. By the way, are there tomb robbers like the old Nine Gates or the Tomb Raiders? The two arrived at the shores of the East China Sea, where the corpse bride had designated the waiting area for everyone. That world was a prime material plane. With the power of Bai Luo and the others, simply descending would bring immense destruction. Therefore, they needed to reach it by special means, rather than arriving in person. Mr. Atón, the corpse bride was a traditional Oriental woman, embodying the gentle beauty of the Jiangnan water towns. She was clad in a classical silk gown with flowing sleeves. As she walked, the colorful satin feathers fluttered in the wind, emitting a variety of soft and beautiful radiances. They were the greatest treasures from the dimensions she had conquered, each one priceless. Haven't they arrived yet? That guy arranged the 2 empresses, the corpse bride thought, slightly dissatisfied. I'm the only one who's hosting you. Oh, I see. Bai Luo thought that was understandable. Feng Du was half subordinate to Yingmu Ian, so it was natural for him to greet them. The female Sword Emperor also chose that side. Why? Well, the corpse bride hesitated. She noticed Maya standing next to Bai Luo. A quick sense revealed that this girl was also a miracle. Who is this? My sister. Bai Luo patted Maya's head. Despite her appearance of 15 or 16, she was actually a 10-year-old. Greetings, Your Excellency the King of the East Sea, Maya saluted. Nice to meet you. I am the prophet of the Principality of Atón. Prophet. The corpse bride was surprised that Maya held such a position and immediately returned the greeting. Excuse me. I'll prepare the ceremonial procession for you right away. The Lord of Miracles' presence was like the arrival of an emperor. As the host, the corpse bride, having invited Bai Luo, must be impolite and provide a proper welcome. Otherwise, it would be an insult to Bai Luo's status and would negatively impact their relationship, a loss that would outweigh the gain. Please step into the sedan chair. The corpse bride welcomed Bai Luo and Maya in the Mianling Imperial Chariot, a massive, ornately decorated chariot. Pulling the chariot were not humans, but 6 strange creatures resembling dogs, lions, and dragons. Golden jade threads shattered, like tiny maple leaves, encircled their bodies. Their fur shifted from golden purple to crimson, and they bore jet-black dragon horns. Their 4 furry legs were entwined with lotus-like flames, leaving a crimson lotus on the ground with every step. The corpse bride called them, and these 6 were none other than heroic-level golden-haired, their combined combat power forcing even ordinary masters to retreat. But here, they could only transform into divine beasts and pull the chariot for Bai Luo and Maya. When you get there, please do not disembark from this chariot. The imperial chariot of the sleeping mausoleum embodies the corpse bride's miraculous power, possessing a blocking and isolating effect. As long as they remain aboard, the two will not trigger the backlash of the dimensional will of the material plane. Oh, Bai Luo patted the chariot, not expecting it to have such a function. What about you? What will you do? I have people there, I can possess their consciousness. With a Lord of Miracles here, Bai Luo would understand this tactic and expressed his understanding. And please rest assured, Lord Atón, the corpse bride said, they are quite powerful, even among the best heroes. The chariot is Bai Luo and Maya's ticket to the material plane. If it is destroyed, they must immediately return to the miracle world. Otherwise, even with their power, even if they completely restrain their energy, the Lord of Miracles' life force is enough to destabilize the plane's rules, leading to a devastating scene. Therefore, the corpse bride must ensure adequate security. If outsiders were to touch Bai Luo and Maya, the corpse bride would not only be humiliated but also potentially offend them. Of course, Bai Luo was quite interested. He didn't mind being attacked, he was actually looking forward to it. Please raise the curtains, both of you. The chariot, pulled by 6 golden-haired beasts, arrived at a spacious area resembling an underground imperial mausoleum and stopped in the square in front of the main hall. Your Highnesses, we have been waiting here for a long time. 2 black-haired women knelt on one knee in front of the chariot. One wore a red and white gown, the other a blue and white dress. Both were extremely elegant, classical beauties. Judging from their auras, they were both king-level powerhouses, which surprised Bai Luo. The corpse bride wasn't an elector. She had only just reached the 4th awakening. The strongest among her subordinates was merely legendary, with no epic powerhouses at all. Therefore, she couldn't possibly afford to dedicate 2 legendary powerhouses to protecting Bai Luo and Maya. If this were to happen, the cost would be enormous. After all, the corpse bride herself needed protection, and the Eastern Empress and the Sword Queen would also have to send forces. There were 2 legendaries here, and they weren't sending legendaries. Could it be that they looked down on the empresses? But the legendaries were all clashing with the Dimension Lords, and they were the only ones capable of fighting against such legendary Dimension Lords. It must be said that while the upper limit of dimensional creatures was low, at most peak legendary, they couldn't withstand their sheer numbers. The average triple awakened Miracle Lord commanded at most 5 legendaries, a feat accumulated over hundreds of years. For someone like the Grand Duke of Fairy Eagle, she only had 3 legendaries. This equated to the combat power of a mere 3 Dimension Lords. It's no wonder some kings were reluctant to go to war with the Dimensions. They simply lacked a significant number of men, and the loss of even one would cause them years of grief. Fusang, Laurel, greet the 2 lords. In the miracle world, Lord is a respectful title for miracle lords and miracle creatures. The term originally derives from dimensional creatures, but it's perfectly appropriate for them. Please use these 2 prepared bodies. Under the command of Fuzo and Yuge, creatures resembling terracotta warriors lifted 2 coffins. Upon opening them, a man and a woman lay within. The man was handsome, appearing to be in his 20s, while the woman was a young girl, no more than 15. They lay flat within the coffins, their hands folded in front of them, but without a trace of breath, clearly corpses. Corpses, please forgive me, Lord, Fuzo said. This is the miraculous power of your majesty. Yes, it's all right. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Consider it a new experience. After all, neither Shiro nor Maya had ever experienced becoming a zombie. Maya might have predicted it, but it was different from experiencing it firsthand, and therefore quite interesting. The body isn't as stiff as you'd imagine. Shiro wasn't descending upon the corpse, but rather controlling the character on a computer screen with a controller, the only difference being that it could sense other sensations, making it more realistic. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.